Welcome back to the afternoon session. Just want to make sure Councillor Natellenboss, you're with us.
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Okay, so I think we're going to go into the department presentations right now. Is that correct? Yes? Okay. Who's first? You're first? All right. All right, Jay?
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just some housekeeping. So the delay was one of the presentations was loaded incorrectly. So the copy, if you're following along with paper-wise, will need to be updated. So just bear with me if the copy you're looking at, there's some slight tweaks. Okay?
Okay. Before we get into the department presentations, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, did you want to say something?
Yeah, you bet. For myself, thanks for the time, Mayor. I just wanted to kind of make an opening statement here on budget, and just want to read something that I prepared here. It's something I've tried to do, and to try and frame where my head's at, and just share some thoughts. So, as we begin the budget process, it is a continually evolving and improving process. I look forward to the upcoming department presentations, making a connection between the document that we've been provided and filling in the gaps for council and providing clarity for the community. Personally, I look forward to learning about the needs of each department and what staffing complements per area are proposed in the budget. I anticipate questions from councillors to provide clarity on this. I look forward to trying to address areas of concern identified by the community during the recent election, such as consistent and constant enforcement of the currently established rules in our community as we grow. I'm optimistic that we're going to find a way through this budget to provide clear opportunities for the community to participate in a deliberate and ongoing conversation on growth in our community. And finally, I want to understand what it's going to take to balance service levels and reset our service foundation for future growth. I want to say thank you to administration in advance for all the work that's been done to get us to this point and to enable the conversation we're about to have over the next 1.5 days. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. All right, go ahead, Jay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, so we're transitioning into the department presentations. We'll be proceeding in the order that they are in the budget document itself, so you can kind of like follow along and turn pages as you go through to match financials and so on and so forth. I can't speak to how the other directors would like to present, but I still like the idea of if you have a question on the slide, please interject and go from there. And yeah, here we go. So the opening section of the budget document is serving the citizens, and so there's 3 elements that make that up. So first is mayor and council. I'm not going to speak for what you guys do and all of your things from that perspective. I will just talk a little bit about the financial page. So we see that there is no change in revenues for the council budget. There is a slight decrease in expense projected, but offset by a decrease in transfers from reserve. So net budget is $2,000 difference, which is a 0% change. Next slide. So CAO office. So what does CAO office do? Focus on council relations, corporate strategic planning, corporate culture, community and partner relations, and intergovernmental relations and advocacy. Focus for 2026, so support council in the development of the new strategic plan, improve long-term corporate planning, communication flow between administration, council, and public, enhance strategic advocacy and employee attraction and retention. Some efficiencies that have been done over the last year. So improved external grant application process. So support departments in applying for external funding. We've resulted in over $250,000 of funding in 2025. Streamlined provincial advocacy efforts. Active partnership with Covenant Health. Joint site for 2 new high schools. Expanded corporate planning functions. So developed 4-year corporate plan and corporate risk register. Quarterly reporting on service delivery. Launch of a primary care support grant and initiated the level of service review. The CAO budget, so due to anticipated grant income associated with the new budget coordinator, there is some change in expense. Net impact is increase of $127,000 or 9% change in budget. Corporate transactions. So this probably be the first time most of you hear about this. So corporate transactions is sorry?
Sorry, I think Ms. Morrison wanted to say something.
Yeah, just for the CAO office, and Ms. O'Neill will jump in as well. The main difference has been, as you see in the budget document, is the addition of a grant administrator. So I'm not sure if Ms. O'Neill would want to speak to that, or we're available for any questions.
Great, thank you for, did you want to speak to that, Ms. O'Neill, are you good? Okay, I think Councillor Hyde, and then I have a question.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if we're going to get more slides on the mayor and council of the CEO office. We kind of jumped right into corporate transactions, but I just had a few questions on the CEO office part. We were taking a look at this, and I was looking at the 2026-2027 difference from 73,959, and it jumps up to 101,391 in 2027. I'm just wondering if those numbers should be closer to around the $100,000 on the 2026, or why is it so much lower on the 2026 number of 73,959 on the net change request?
Sorry, you're looking in the budget document right now?
Yes, I am. Page 18.
Thank you. So sir, could you repeat your question for me, please?
Well, I'm looking under 2026, and we were just kind of looking at adding up the numbers, and didn't seem to add up with the grant coordination and some things like that, of the request difference from 73 up to 101 from 2026 to 2027. It's quite a large increase. I'm just wondering if that's...
I can speak to that.
Okay.
So normal budget procedure, when adding a new staffing resource, it's almost never heard of that the staffing gets hired January 1. So there's an assumption made around, usually it's in end of the first quarter, is usually we anticipate to have filled the seat. So you don't put a full budget in for the first year for staffing. So that's why it's only a partial portion of the, so it looks like 101,000 would be the full salary in 2027. So that's 3/4 of that generally for the first year. And also you see the revenue piece offset some of that. So does that clarify that?
That clarifies that one, and I'm just looking at the contracted and general services. There's a 39% increase from 2025 to 2026 of $63,800. Can we speak to that as to why it's such an increase in contractor services for the CEO office?
Go ahead, Ms. O'Neill.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Hyde. We've added in about $50,000 of strategic initiative consulting. This area has been critical in moving key council priorities forward over the past few years, such as the 10 gig fiber optic network, the innovation park, the health needs assessment, and now the comprehensive growth plan. So we've included a small amount of ongoing consulting dollars to support the work completed by this area. Items that can be included as part of this are definitely council's new strategic plan and the facilitation of that, as well as continuing support for corporate initiatives like the level of service review that we began this year that will need to continue in subsequent years. And finally, throughout the year, we find ourselves kind of strapped when we're working on council's strategic plan because we want to move smaller initiatives forward, but we don't have those dollars. So this will allow the CAO office and strategic initiatives to take those items and move them forward. Thank you.
All right, and there's no, when you look at contractor personnel as opposed to internal personnel, there's nobody to fill that void or that space at this point?
We currently don't have staff capacity, and so we've only put in for $50,000 of external consulting. It would be challenging to find a resource that could do that work for that amount of money.
Okay.
So it's just supplementing what we already do.
Thank you.
Mayor, when you have a chance, I have a question.
Sure, okay, so Councillor Murray, then Councillor Van Newkirk, and then Councillor Natellenbos.
Thank you. Yeah, this page 18 of the actual document, I found a little bit just challenging to figure out because you're, in this explanation, we're talking about an additional like FTE hired partway through 2026. Then The grant coordination, how does that play into, is it the same revenue as listed up here from government transfers?
Yes.
It is.
So that the $50,000 revenue is anticipated grant grant money collected, yes.
Income
Yes.
from hiring
The grant
this
coordinator,
additional
yes.
person?
So if that was not supported, then that money would go away as well.
Is the grant specifically to administrative or CAO office?
So, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who wants to speak? Good. Go ahead, Ms. O'Neill.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Murray. We put the revenue into CAO office because we're not sure exactly which grants we're going to be applying for next year. So the revenue might actually flow through to other departments or into the capital plan. It was a placeholder so that council can see the offset and revenue coming in by the CAO office hiring a new resource dedicated to grant administration.
Sorry, and then we still are spending another additional 50,000 for the consulting on top of that employee
Correct.
who's so it's costing us in 2027 $100,000 to gain 50. Is that correct?
Sorry, no, there's two different items that CAO office has put forward. One is a grant coordinator that would allow the organization to apply for those competitive grants. So there is funding under the 2026 CAO grant coordination amount in the table. There's a revenue and then the associated expense for personnel. That's one item. The second item is specifically on strategic initiatives, where we would look for external consulting dollars to advance council's strategic plan. So two separate items, but on the table, they look like they're one and the same, but it's two different things we're doing.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Newkirk, and then Councillor Tellenbos.
Thank you. And this question may be for later if the answer isn't contained in here. But is there some kind of allocation for the anticipated notices of motion coming from council that is in this budget somewhere? If council gets antsy and gives you 50 notice of motions in 2026, is there funding in the budget for some kind of anticipated piece? And if not, we should highlight that and talk about that.
CAO Schwartz, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the short answer to that is no, there's not. As Jay presented earlier today, we are funding up to provide bare bones services and to actually catch up on services. So it would be a juggling act if something comes off the bottom and something gets added in the top.
Thank you, and I bring that up because that's what I thought, and it's also important awareness for council as we move forward that every time we bring a notice of motion forward that requires resources, it is not, that bulk of work, if we do 10, 15, 20, or 30 notices of motion in 2026, there isn't a lump of money to pull from for administration to do that, So in this budget, in this style, I just really want to set the stage for that as well, for awareness and clarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tellenbos.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar question to Councillor Murray there, just that we see that 50,000 in revenue. Do we anticipate more to offset the cost of that position down the road in future years? Or are we going to operate at a loss with that position?
Ms. O'Neill?
Thank you through the mayor to Councillor Tellenbos. We've put in a conservative revenue amount. We've been successful in this year, 2025, over $300,000 of incremental revenue. We believe with the grant coordinator, the position will offset itself, but we want to be conservative and estimated $50,000 of revenue, which is what we have already secured in future grants.
Perfect, thank you. And then another question I have, just in regards to staffing levels. I've noticed in previous budgets, we've been able to see how many FTEs we have and the shift that we're making. Is there any way to get that added to this budget so that we understand how many folks are representing each department and what the actual variance or changes as we bring on new folks or propose new folks?
Ms. Morrison?
Through the mayor to Councillor Nintellenboss. Yes, you are correct. We did display that in previous budgets. This budget, we have, and of course, that information is available. In this budget, we are really looking at the services provided, and that has been our focus. And to provide those services is a absolute combination of multiple things. Yes, personnel being one of those, but it really is the whole budget in an area that would demonstrate what it costs to provide services. So that is the reason we have not included them in this document.
Perfect, thank you. I just, I would appreciate it, I guess I'll keep asking for each department for that number, because otherwise I think it's just a really high-level budget if we're not given that level of detail. So my next question will be for the CAO office. Are you able to provide how many full-time FTEs we currently have, and then how many we would have should this proposed budget go through, which I would assume would just be one more person?
Yes, Councillor, that is correct. So the CAO budget currently has six.
Kelly?
Oh, Kelly and Kyle. Sorry, I forgot to add our incredible administrative people. So we currently have 6, and this would be an addition of one more.
Thank you.
Mayor Vanderklark?
Thank you. Dia, did you want to say something, CAO?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Councillor Natellenboss, that we will provide that listing of FTEs. If you recall, when we talked during the orientation, is a lot of services are touched by a lot of different employees. So to have a direct correlation, and this is a good example, this grant funding coordinator would work across the organization, as does the strategic initiatives manager, which sit in the CAO's office but support the entire organization. So I just wanted to reiterate that, but we can absolutely roll up the FTEs and share that.
Perfect, thank you. But just to confirm, the full salary or expense would be captured under the CAO, so therefore the FTE position would be captured directly here?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is a follow-up question I have as well in terms of, I can appreciate the fact that sometimes the staff member works across departments, but at some level, and I know this was a question that came up as we were on the campaign trail in terms of KPIs, and how do you measure someone's performance in terms of what is the ROI in hiring, say, for example, I'm not specifically talking about this one, but it's an example that we have before us. How do you determine that in terms of the ROI so that the public can know what is the direct impact it's having in the services or in the community? So not sure who would like to answer that. CAO?
I'll take a shot at it and then Jay can correct me. If I understand the question is, is it a direct relationship to return on investment? And it's very difficult in a complex organization like ours. That said, we are getting better and better at measuring. For instance, the return on investment on the grant funding should be fairly straightforward. Either you brought in enough money or you didn't, or we need to adjust those revenues. So across the organization, as part of a service review, we are looking at better ways to measure performance. But as per having specific ROI for each position, that's not there yet, but it's something we want to work towards.
Okay.
Jay, did you want to add?
If I may add as well, Madam Mayor. So the other element in the preparation and presentation of this budget is around service. I don't think that it's best practice to hone in on a specific position and say, you don't need this position or you do need this position without understanding service. So we phrased everything in the context of service. We said, this is what we need to right size the budget to be what we need to deliver services as they're expected by council for the residents. If a position is arbitrarily denied, we are trying to phrase it in, it has service consequence, right? Not just be like, I still expect the same service, but you just don't get that resource to do it. So that's why the FTE was brought out of the conversation specifically, and everything's phrased by program. This is how much the program needs to be whole. Sometimes there's staff in there, sometimes there isn't. It's about, whether funding for contracts or those other pieces, so that there's understanding that if you're denying this, it's service consequence, not you're just denying it, and service will somehow miraculously continue to perform to that level. So that's why we, rather than just a list of staff that says these are the things, and like, because that's always one of the points that you're growing your staff complement too much or whatever. But it's about service delivery, and if we want to be whole, and that's so the conversation we're hoping is to be around. If I don't like the number, what service would I adjust? And sometimes it has a staff implication, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's not about, I just don't want to add these X number of positions. So that's why the budget document is the way that it is, as opposed to the classical, here's your contracted services went up this much dollars, and FTE count went up this much dollars, because that's not having the conversation about the service and the idea that we provided the service materials, and council had a conversation about where we're challenged, and this is what the whole narrative conversation with the department presentations will be. That'll be an element of the presentations of where we're challenged and how we're struggling to do that, and you will see or could see consequences to that. And so the resources to make those programs whole is what we're asking for, regardless of whether it's staff or not staff. It's about, because I've heard council say that we want services. There's a sentiment out there that services we're not getting good value for dollar of what it's supposed to be, right? That we expect these services. So this is about making the services back to where they should be. Sometimes it requires staff, sometimes it's not. If we don't like the number value, then let's talk about the service itself.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I guess in terms of would you agree that some delivery of service, you can measure that in terms of number of individuals delivering those services, for example, in fire and protective services or different things like that you can deliver? There are certain numbers that you can, or the other part of that is whether or not we need to have it in-house or contract it out. Sometimes there's those metrics as well. So that's what I'm really asking about. I think that it's really important for the public to know that, yes, this is how many is needed in order to deliver this level of service in this particular area, or these are the number of staff. So
that's fair. And going back to the other presentation with the metrics, so one of the items was dollars spent per resident, and Beaumont was at the very low end on both of those compared to everybody else. So the amount of money that we spend per service compared to other municipalities is much less, and so that part of that is staff. But I agree that there's metrics around specifics, 100%, but just as an overall perspective, the amount to deliver those services is underfunded compared to other municipalities.
okay, so a few more questions. Thank you so much. So CEO, did you want to say something? And then,
When I heard you explain your question and the need for the public to know, I need to take a better shot at this answer and be a little more comprehensive, and I thank my colleagues to my left for giving me that. We do operational planning every year, where the department sits down and looks at the resources and the services and how they're delivering those services, and then we set goals. We have quarterly reports which we bring back to council. We have individual personal development plans for each of our employees. There's an annual performance appraisal system that's in place. We currently review each vacancy as it arises and decide whether it needs to go towards this service department or another. And I've shared this before, that we've done that a few times this year, where we have 2 times this year we've seconded from one part of the organization to the other to help provide the services. It's part of our corporate planning annually. We review the org structure and look at where the resources sit. We constantly review whether we're going to contract out work or whether we're going to do it in-house. Operations is always reviewing that, and a great example around facility maintenance, equipment maintenance, where we were contracting out a significant amount of work, and then we hit a tipping point where it made sense to hire a specific skill set and not contract out that work, and they're realizing the savings. So yeah, we're probably been measuring a lot more than I gave credit in my first answer, but it's something that we're certainly aware of and can always improve on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penrod and then Councillor Cole-Smith.
Thanks, Mayor. And I think CEO Schwartz's last response picked off my first question. So that was just kind of around organizational philosophy around how do you determine what's the optimal hire in a given situation. Is this a contracted piece or is this a bring someone in internal? Maybe you could just speak a little more to, that's like a case-by-case basis. How do you think about kind of an optimal balance or balancing of internal human resources versus those contracted piece? And I'll just give you my follow-up to that, and then you can speak to all of it. The other big question mark that I have on this, and I anticipate hearing from the public here, when we have a category that's general services, is that feels very rolled up. And so can you give us a better idea of what kinds of things and stuff get rolled up into a category like that? Thank you.
Jay, do you want to take that one? As you're pulling it up in front of you.
So, through the mayor to the councillor, so it is a rolled up category. If you give me a minute, I can run some report and get a little bit of detail about some examples in there. So if you indulge me for that. But it is usually contracted in general services anytime we have to go outside the organization for resource help. Right, so whether it's under contract for service delivery, or they're taking away our waste, or they're doing whatever, that's kind of the bucket where that belongs, as opposed to supplies and materials, which is tangible things that we collect, right? So I agree, it's fairly generic and innocuous because it needs to cover a large gambit of things.
Councillor Penrod, can I take a shot at your first
yeah.
part of that question while Jay pulls the data? We're constantly looking at whether it makes sense to provide that service internally or externally. And an example I'll use is snow clearing. We do snow clearing. The bulk of the snow clearing is done internally. However, after hours, we also have a contractor that will come and put product down, salt and sand, until we get to a certain cumulative layer of snow, and then we'll call in crews. It's cheaper for us to contract that out on silent hours than it is to buy that equipment, maintain that equipment, replace that equipment, and pay workers overtime to do the work. So fitness facility has contracted services where people come in and provide those. Constantly looking at other opportunities as we hit those cost centers those cost teeter tot, I guess is what you would say, the tipping point, and look at whether it's cheaper to do it internally or externally.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's, I always say, when we're frustrated, when no one loves the prospect of paying more on their tax bill, and when we're in that kind of frustrated mode, it's easy to kind of default to a story where there's good guys with white hats on and bad guys with black hats on. And that's one of the bad guys is the consultants that come in and get sweet padded contracts and all that kind of stuff, right? So it sounds like we have a pretty robust methodology for evaluating what is the best, most cost-effective way to get work done.
On that note, a couple other things that trigger for me is engineering. Engineering, to have the expertise as broad as, say, a company like Stantec or ISL, you need multiple different engineers. Well, we're not big enough for that. So we'll contract out a lot of those master plans, and it still requires management, it still requires our input. Legal services, we don't have a lawyer on staff, we're just not that big. So we use a firm that's got multiple different types of lawyers, so we can be a one-stop shop. So there's another example where we go to the Blackadders for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
I think Jay still had
did you want to
answer
follow
on
up
the
with that,
general
Jay, the
services
list
piece.
there? General
So,
services?
through the mayor to the councillor. So not an exhaustive list, but other examples. So contracted services, consulting fees, advertising, property assessment fees. These are things that would fall into that category. So it's not exhaustive. There's much more, but it's at a rolled up level. It's designed to capture buckets.
So yeah, so those are the kind of things that I think about contracted services, like we did a cost analysis of, was it more cost effective for us to keep property assessments, I might be getting this slightly wrong, in-house, and we moved those outside, right? Because it was more cost effective to get a expert group that was doing that service for many municipalities and get that work done that way. What I'd like more clarity on is what falls under general services, because it's contracted and general services, so obviously the general piece is carrying some weight there.
I think it just might be nomenclature around the building, the chart of accounts. It's designed so, because if you had something that wasn't contracted, but maybe one-time service or something else, now does it fit in contracted service? So it's a chart of accounts verbiage to cover a bucket of things, but mostly it's all about a short-term or long-term contract in that area, yes.
Yeah, it's when there's, I understand and I appreciate, I've experienced presiding over interminable annual general meetings of charities. I appreciate the advantages and the good leadership that goes into presenting a rolled up budget at times. It just kind of keeps people in productive conversations. But one of the trade-offs is when we encounter a rolled up area that feels like a catch-all, my experience is people get nervous about that and they start asking questions. So that's the spirit of where I'm asking here. So if it is, that's maybe something to reflect on. If it is a piece that's not very specific and not super necessary there, we might do ourselves some favors just by getting rid of that language. Thanks.
I agree. Okay, so Councillor Cole-Smith and then Councillor Hyde.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to go back to the comments about KPI. I think you touched on it, Mr. CEO there. So I understand that a net given position, it's difficult to rate that position based on KPI, but clearly if there's a need, like we've identified a need for a new position, there's something that needs to be filled. Like what is that? Can you speak to that a bit? I'm guessing there's a business case for it, and can you just expand on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, exactly. There is a business case for those positions. I'll use the grant funding coordinator as an example. We believe that we can bring in much more than we're going to pay this person to do the work, which will help bring in more grant funding, which we're letting fall off the edge of the table right now. The position that I talked about in infrastructure, the equipment maintenance, that was a business case where we were managing the contracting out, and then it hit that tipping point and we realized that we could get more work done because this person could do more than just heavy duty work that we were contracting out. So we hired that person, and we are getting those results, that we're getting more work done with less cost. And Mr. Lewicki can expand on that specific example, but that's how we look at them.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Hyde and then Councillor Van Newkirk after that.
Yeah, through the mayor, I certainly can appreciate the use of contract personnel. That you're taking out things like source deductions, HR, health plans, insurance, maintenance, all those type of things that you're putting off to the contractor as opposed to doing internally. What we see out there is just this big contract number, right? We don't see the reasoning behind it and all that kind of stuff too. As those several things that I just mentioned as far as the other expenses that go along with hiring somebody. So I think that the biggest thing is just being transparent around that and saying, why would we contract this out as opposed to hiring or buying a new grader or that kind of thing? It's really important, I think, that you touched on it to CEO Schwartz about where is that tipping point? Where is it that we're okay to spend that money on those other source deductions and HR and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to just getting a contractor to come in and them taking on all of those costs and those type of different things that go along with hiring an employee and those type of things. So I do appreciate that, but I think that we need to understand those, and I think this is going to be a common thread through this entire budget about contract personnel and understanding why exactly we're contracting what we're doing and not doing it internally.
CEO Schwartz.
All good points. I'm points that need to be considered. A few other things to add to that list when we're looking at internal or external, and you identified the loading costs, the 25 to 30% above the salary that we have to pay, not to mention we have to find a place for that person, not to mention we have to provide benefits, all of those things. But sometimes it makes sense. We are supporting and building a community, so we want some consistency in our organization so that we have that common voice, and that makes a lot of sense when you can keep that corporate knowledge here in our community that's supporting our community. But being that we're so complex, and that we've said it before, from delivering snow removal to social services and everything in between, it's very difficult to hire that expertise in all of those areas. So please keep the questions coming. If we can educate the public more on why it makes sense to contract out, why it makes sense to hire a consultant. Look at the increase in fees in the consulting piece for the CAO's offices. We have a registered lobbyist with the provincial government. We have an advocacy specialist. This company is one of the biggest ones in Canada, and they provide excellent service. That's how we've been getting things like the Innovation Park, and we're very close, about the 10 gig, about the healthcare facilities. We wouldn't be able to get in those rooms without paying people to provide those services. So that's just another example.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yeah, a couple things, and one just pops up, kind of on the heels of what the CAO just said, bigger picture here, it's cheaper to retain staff than to be looking and recruiting and hiring and such, right? And, I hope that's also a theme in this budget as well, because that's very important. The continuity is important, the stability of the organization is important, and the facts are, if we want to be fiscally responsible, we should retain who we have, and then be very pointed about the next piece of the puzzle that we're looking for. So throw that out there now. CEO, I also appreciated your comment around the why we don't have an engineer, why we don't have a lawyer. And I really want to hone in on that a bit, because again, in the campaign, I was challenged more than once around, if we had an engineer, they could do all the engineering things. If we had a lawyer, we could do all the lawyer things, right? And I think what you said was very important, is that there are specialties in these firms that we can turn off and turn on, and there's big value in that for the municipality. So, it was an important piece you highlighted, and I think it really carries a lot of weight in the conversation we're having now. And I think the robust conversation that we're having in this, first CAO office piece is really going to help frame the rest of the departmental conversations we have. So, yeah, thank you.
I want to clarify that we do have engineers on staff, and with the engineers comes a very specific scope of practice, so they're able and licensed to do certain things. But you're right, the comment you made nails it and explains it better than me. By going to a firm, we get a much broader scope. So yeah, I want to clarify that, and I certainly don't want to underscore the fact that we have you saw one here last night with Ryan Anders, we have some very skilled engineers on staff. And I think we'll hear more about that from Aaron when he gets to his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to reiterate that probably for the departments, because this seems to be a big area that spans across, I think about 10 to 12% of the budget is going to this area of consultants or contracted services. So I think just to be ready to be able to have a little more transparency in what they're going for, I think would be really helpful for the public in making decisions as well for us. All right, Aaron? Number?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base on on Mr. Swerst, what he said about the fleet technician. So we were talking about a tipping point. So we did do an analysis with that, and one thing we found was we were spending more in contracted services than the position was worth. And right now we're seeing approximately $11,000 a month in savings just by going with an internal person. So we're looking at, a rate of $54 an hour versus $165 an hour for contracted services. So we did a very thorough, in-depth business case around, does it make sense to have internal staff do this work versus having an external contracted services company come in? And it was overwhelmingly obvious what the decision was. So we went with that, and we're definitely seeing a lot of success with that decision. Thank you. I just wanted to expand on that.
Thank you, Mr. Lewicki. Okay, Jay, continue on.
Okay. I will go slower. Sorry, that's on me. So I wasn't trying to hustle through. It's just I get clicker happy. So corporate transactions, is a virtual department within the organization. Okay, so there's no staff, there's no direct service to the public. It's managed by me and oversight by the CFO. And where this is so while I would love to have all of the property taxes show up in the finance budget, that would help me with my operations, that's not where it goes. So all of the corporate financial fiduciary things show up in this area, right? So property taxes go there, franchise fees, insurance comes out of there, organizational employee benefits, long-term debt repayment, all corporate reserve management is all through this fiscal corporate transactions virtual department. Okay, so that's the exercise. So questions on what it is?
We do have a question, Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think this falls into the what it is piece. So I noticed an almost 30% savings in personnel in this virtual department. Talk to me about the accounting involved in when something would go like it did last year. Well, I guess the last 2 years we've been in a negative spot on personnel. So talk to me about the accounting involved there between the contracted services versus the personnel.
Sorry, I'm just pulling up my sheet here.
That's page 19 of the
Thank
main
you.
budget document. Thanks.
Okay, so let's just take a look at some of these. So contract and general services, so personnel. So while it has no staff, for example, but changes to our benefits program might go in here, right? So that's in their personal expenses. So you wouldn't, while there's no staff present, we need to record the expense somewhere, and you don't always know where the expense is going to be claimed, right? So that's an example of something that would go in there. Sorry, what was the other question around?
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to understand is what's the point of having the personnel line there when there are no personnel per se in this department?
So
I guess what data or information is being conveyed with that negative number there that otherwise we wouldn't appreciate or see in the budget?
So one that we're going to move towards, and it's not ready yet, but for example, the idea of vacancies. Okay, so currently in the departments, we run vacancies. I get a full budget for my personnel, and then I'm assumed based on corporate vacancy, like 5%. Let's just pick a number. Okay, so I'm assuming that 5% of my staff will be vacant through a whole year. We reduce that budget. I get my full salary budget, then I just take 5% of my salaries off. And whether or not I have a vacancy or not, it's assumed that I will, and so now I could be over budget. Right? If I have no vacancies for a whole year, I could be over budget just because of the assumption. So an idea that we're going to move towards would be to capture this in corporate transactions. So I know corporately that 5%, historically we've run it every year or whatever the percent is, that this is our vacancy rate. And I know that if I budget at full value, but I'm going to reverse budget or hedge against it because I know that it'll be a negative expense because I know we're never 100% staffed corporately, but I can't predict where it's going to be. I can't predict it's going to be in my area or infrastructure or wherever, but I know that there's going to be some vacancies. So I would put negative employee expense in corporate transactions. So the bottom line manages the organization. There is no staff. I just know that there is going to be some savings, but I can't identify where it's going to be, and I'm not going to punish, trying to say punish and penalize at the same time, punish or penalize the department for being fully staffed, right, in order to make this happen. So these are the kinds of transactions that would be here. So while there is no staff, there are staff expenses within the organization, and this is managing the corporate application of these expenses across the organization without being able to be specific to an area.
Thank you. I think, I'm glad I asked the question. I didn't know what the answer would be, but I think what I take away from that is that this is a bit of a check. Some good accounting reasons that you gave, but it also serves, in my mind, as a bit of a check against the best practice of essentially over budgeting or budgeting for a slight surplus. That can get to a place in an organization where budgets are being padded. And then in our case, all of that revenue comes, or most of it comes from the taxpayer, right? And so it's great to say in procurement, we're going to try to run more efficient. And then at the end of the day, that's money that's saved in the reserves, but it's less than transparent, right? If it boils down to overstating the case of what we need to charge the taxpayer to make the organization work, even if it has some benefits to the long-term health of the organization. Sounds like this works as an example of where in the organization we're checking and balancing that kind of impulse.
100%.
Truing it up.
That's a regular activity of, so contracted services, for example, if we know that we only spend 95% of our budget, we budget 100%, but I don't know where the savings are going to be depending on pressures and needs, but I know corporately we do this, so we would have a contra expense to bring that down so we're not over collecting, right? So these are the corporate transactions is where we do things like hedges or corporate money or corporate insurance or corporate expense, things that don't necessarily need to be assigned everywhere, but they do need to be recorded in our financial statements. And when you roll it all up into the pieces, you would see all the other departments add up to, let's say, $100 for expenses, but then there's minus $5 in corporate transactions. So the total budget's now $95, even though you can't see it anywhere other than we do the work in the background. So that's why it's a virtual department. It's very tricky. Why is there personnel in a no personnel department? It's because we're managing corporate personnel, not this department's personnel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Natellenbos, and then Councillor Murray and Councillor Hyde.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. When we refer to personnel, does that include total compensation, benefits, merit increase, COLA increase?
Through the mayor to the councillor, yes. Personnel includes all of that.
Okay, perfect. Question in regards to benefits. Last budget season, I realized we had a new finance team, and it was stated that there wasn't the opportunity to source out and potentially a broker to look at better costs for benefits, and benefits had shot up 30%. Are we looking at a reduction in benefits in terms of cost, or was there an increase?
Ms. Morrison.
Absolutely, through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss. For benefits this year, we actually negotiated a substantially better rate, and we will see savings of about $100,000 this year. So we have definitely improved that line item.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Morrison. And in terms of percentage, are you able to provide that number in terms of a decrease based on all benefit?
I don't have that readily available, but certainly can be calculated. We'll get that for you.
Thank you. And then the next question is just what have we allotted for merit increase as well as COLA increase?
Through the mayor to Councilor Telbas. So for conversations like this, administration would request going into closed session to have protected conversations.
Perfect. Then I guess I would ask the mayor if we can have that vote.
Councillor Van Newkirk is all right coming back here. So for the purposes of Councillor Van Newkirk, can you ask that again, Councillor Natellenbos?
Absolutely. I'm just looking for a little clarity in terms of what we're proposing for increase for COLA as well as increase for merit. I was told that we need to vote to go into closed session. I would like this information to be public, so I would like to have that vote so that we can determine what we're doing.
CAO, go ahead.
I want to clarify, Councillor Natellenboss, are you looking for the percentage or are you looking for the dollar value? The dollar value we could share in the public meeting, but if we want to go into the percentages, then we're recommending that we go in camera for a number of reasons. Employee well-being, threats to unionization, and a whole bunch of other reasons.
Well, fair enough. I'm looking for both numbers, so I guess closed session.
All right, so we will have a vote to go to closed session. So somebody want to share before, is that a question for later?
It was a different question. Yeah.
And Councillor Van Newkirk?
Yeah, thank you. Just a question for the clerk. Is this a vote that requires 4-3 to go in, or is it unanimous, or what does that look like? Can you just remind the room, please? Thank you.
It would be a majority.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And again, to the clerk, just for clarity, as I understand it, when we move in camera, we need to do for fairly specific reasons. And so I'm just wondering from a process perspective, if we want to kind of move in and out of camera as questions come up on particular topics, so we can give that transparency to the community on what exactly is pushing us into camera, or do we want to kind of save up some topics and move in more broadly? And maybe there's the way to start that conversation is some advice from the clerk that I'd ask for.
Sorry, I got a lot of computers back here. Thank you for the question through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. With regards to this one, we would be specifically moving into closed session with regards to section 29 and 30. So advice from officials as well as the economic interests of the municipality. I guess it's really up to I don't know what questions council is going to have moving down on whether or not this would go into closed session. I know definitely for this topic, we're suggesting going into closed session, but I don't know what questions you have that would fall under moving forward. So moving in and out of closed session is fine from a procedural standpoint.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just state it in terms of my preference, and then we'll move to the motion and we'll debate the merits of the motion and handle it that way. But I'll just say, like, I feel that it's not super efficient with respect to managing our meeting agenda to kind of move in and out of closed session. However, I think the balance there is that's probably the most transparent way to do it. There are good reasons for us as representatives of the community to move into closed session and reasons where we're compelled to legally. I think I've heard a lot of my colleagues express at different times that if we need to do that, we want to do it in the most limited way possible because we're really wanting to hold on to that transparency piece and make sure that the public sees as much as possible. So I'll save further comments until the debate on the motion. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to say, and we can defer to Councillor Natellenboss since he was the one brought up as well. I'm kind of at a, because when we go into closed session, obviously there's a number of things, and sometimes there's things that we may all not vote the same on, right, in terms of going into that. One of the things about this, I understand the position of the recommendation, everything like that, but at the same time, it does put us in a bind as well as councillors when conversing with the public, because it is a very, very topic that is talked about a lot in terms of just wanting more transparency in that regard. So that is my my difficulty with this, but I'm going to get Councillor Hyde, then Councillor Natellenboss, if you want us to go in, if you want to defer, we'll go with the motion.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, just real quickly before we move ahead with this motion. I think that, same with my colleagues here on council, touchy subject, really touchy subject, obviously. And I think we need to be very pointed with our questions, and they have to be answered quickly, and we need to get out of closed session as quick as possible. And I think that if there is anything that needs to be discussed by admin, it has to be we have to make sure it's very clear and concise. This is the message, this is what we're trying to do. Council needs to deliberate on it fairly quickly so we can get out of closed session as fast as possible. So there's more transparency. So I just wanted to make that heard.
Councillor Natellenbos?
Perfect, thank you, Mayor. I know this question had come up in closed session in the past, and my question was, should this vote fail, can we speak in open session in regards to this? So I will be voting against this motion to make sure that this information is public.
So would someone like to do the motion? Who would like to do it?
I just want to point out procedurally, whichever councillor chooses to move the motion, that does not mean you need to vote in favor of the motion. It's just putting the motion on the floor.
I'm sorry.
That being said, I will put the motion forward.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And once our voting shows up here. Yeah, do you want to go ahead, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk?
Yeah, thank you. Quite quickly, we're going to spend more time debating this than hopefully it would take in camera, so I just want to be really upfront with that as well. As far as the flow of the day goes, I would remind everyone that we're still on the first department and we have 2 days allocated for this and we need to get through it. We need to be prudent with how we manage the meeting and we need to be as succinct as possible. So I'm stating that and we'll see how I decide to vote here.
Thank you. Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just harken back to the conversation around procurement is the way that I think about this is we have experts in the room who are giving us advice around the best way to manage the business of the municipality, which is ultimately what we're charged with as governors. And I just keep coming back to that idea of not playing with our cards shown to our competitors. That's more specific to procurement. In this case, it's acknowledging some of the real feedback that we've heard across the region and the sector of municipal government, but also more particularly some feedback. We take pride in giving feedback to administration around how to improve the budget process, and I'm edified to see that it is improving year over year from them listening to our feedback. But this is an example where they've actually given us some feedback where some of my questions caused unnecessary and unintended, certainly, stress and distress within our employees. And so that's the spirit of this motion, is just to not step in the same hole again. So I'll be voting for the motion.
Mm-hmm. I just want to point out that we did reveal, for example, when we were talking about the grant coordinator, we did reveal similar information here openly in public about the, correct?
So to you, Madam Mayor, so that information is around a person that position is not filled. There's no staff associated with that, so you're not hurting anybody's feelings about that, where Merit and COLA are for existing staff that would be tuning in right now and listening to this conversation, and that would be definitely more opportunities for those sensitivities to be heard and felt.
Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Thank you. I have two questions. One is, do we know, are other municipalities doing the same where they go into a closed session when they're discussing this type of information?
Through the mayor to the councillor, my entire budget experience of 12 years, I've never discussed it in open session once until last year when I came here. It's always been in closed session, protected conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other debate? Okay. All right, so voting and start. Councillor Natellenbos?
I want to speak to that motion before we vote.
Oh, we've already voted. I'm sorry. Do you want to recall that?
Yes, please.
Can we recall that, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, procedurally, we cannot recall a vote. That's already happened.
Okay.
Well, I'll still speak to the motion then, please. Just to make it clear.
Point of order? Point of order, yeah. Can't recall a vote, and therefore Councillor Natellenbus has lost his opportunity to speak to this. However, I would ask the clerk if this would be a situation where there could be a motion to reconsider.
I appreciate that, but I never put the motion forward, Councillor Penrod. I never read a motion.
Yeah.
Nathan, yeah, you might want to just let Nathan know what's happening.
The clerk are just conversing right now. Councillor Natellenbus, just for information.
Thank you, Mayor. We will go ahead and remove, because he is stating that he did not move the motion and therefore he cannot see the motion. Well, unless he's on YouTube, he cannot see the motion. So we'll just go ahead and redo the motion again.
Okay. So, Councillor Natellenbus, you may speak.
So if we can have,
Thank you.
we'll just need someone to remove the motion in order to redebate the motion.
Perfect.
So if I could maybe have a counselor that's in the room that can see the motion up on the screen, move it, please. Again, you do not have to vote in favor of the motion.
Councillor Hyde?
Yes, I'll move that council move into closed session at 1:51 PM pursuant to the Access Information Act, Section 29 and 30.
Councillor Penrod?
Yeah, just a question. As I understand it, none of what preceded, we had a little procedural hiccup where we didn't read the motion into the record. As I understand it, nothing that was done previously has been stricken from the record, so I don't need to restate my opinions or arguments on the debate. So I'll just let what I said previously stand. Thank you.
Okay.
So if Councillor Natellenbus has discussion on the motion, he should definitely do that right now.
Okay. Councillor Natellenbus?
Perfect. That we should hide our cards to competitors. This is residents. These are the folks that we represent. They need to know where this additional funding is coming from. And I think it's a simple concept. I want to remind everyone that we're not voting yes or no to support this. We're just asking for a simple number. How much of an increase would each employee get on COLA side, and how much is a lot for the merit side?
Councillor Natellenbus, can you repeat that? You were
And just for clarity,
oh, just because you were going in and out, we didn't catch everything.
okay.
Sorry.
Mayor, can you hear me now?
Can you repeat what you said? Because your voice was going in and out. We didn't catch everything.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just mention what Councillor Penrod had mentioned, that he wanted to keep his cards close and hide his cards from competitors, but we're not in a scenario where we're doing that. We're releasing this information to the public and the residents of Beaumont, and they have the right to know what we're proposing in terms of an increase for merit, as well as an increase for COLA, cost of living. In addition to that, we're not voting on the actual, motion to put this forward and approve that cost of living and approve that merit. It's simply to get the information that we should be able to know. It should be public knowledge. In addition to that, I want to mention, by voting against this motion, we can keep it in public session as opposed to going to closed session where we won't be able to share that number. So I will be voting against this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Natellenbus. Can you reset the vote for us, please? Anybody else want to speak before we vote? Councillor Van Nieuwkerk and then Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, I'd just like to hear from the clerk comment on what Councillor Natellenbus just said. around voting against it keeps it public. Does the administration's opinion change in that scenario? I don't think it does.
Through the mayor, through to Councillor Van Newkirk, it doesn't change. Are you asking if the vote is if it is not carried, on whether or not we would be sharing the information, or
Well, that's what was insinuated by Councillor Natellenboss. You know, if you vote against this, then the conversation remains public. Sure, but I don't think administration is going to be supportive of that discussion in public, and nor should council, for the reasons we say. So I'm confused here.
I'm going to defer this to our
Thank you.
CAO.
We will be prepared. Oh, that's the test we were expecting.
Oh, the test worked.
Yeah, test worked. If this proceeds in public, then I will publicly provide the risks, and then we will have the discussion. If it's council so chooses that they want to accept those risks, then so be it. I will take this opportunity to make a correction in the fact that whether the public is entitled to this information or not, yes, we are a public entity, but we are also a corporation and an organization. So there is data that we have that we do not share, nor is the public entitled to it. Whether it's this or not, that's not my judgment and not my call, that's council's.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And just realizing that Councillor Natellenboss isn't in the room with us and maybe is in and out of some cell services because we were having a hard time hearing him, I just wanted to clarify my position. So I did absolutely refer to the metaphor that Mr. Bohachek used earlier with respect to procurement, but I was also careful to say that that's not the best metaphor for this case, and that the reason why I'm voting in favor of this motion is because we as council have heard some very direct feedback as to how we can improve the budget process and de-risk it from a corporate municipal standpoint, and that this is the best way to manage the business of the community, and that's our responsibility as governors in this case. And so the allusion to the card metaphor was really just to say, just like we agreed during the procurement discussion, that there are times when we trade some transparency for advantage overall for the community, and then we make that information more public when there's less risk involved to do that. So just wanted to clarify that. Hope Councillor Natellenboss was able to hear it that time.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Councillor Colesmith?
I just want to be really clear here. I think it's the inverse of the question Councillor Van Newkirk asked. By going into closed session and discussing this, does that preclude it from becoming public later?
At this time, yes, it does. However, when we get to the deliberations next week, we're hoping we can steer council to the focus on the number, the budget number, and get to a percentage that you're comfortable with, and then let us deliver the services. So you could still have that debate, and you can still pull it out. But we just don't want it to be out in the public right now, and our employees having to deal with it between now and then. So that's kind of a yes and no. If we go in camera, it stays in camera. However, during deliberations, the number's going to come out, and we'll be able to have that conversation.
So just to be really, really clear, then, it would not be public, at least until deliberations, at which point it could be public.
Oh, sorry.
We're not locking it away forever, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's correct.
There is an opportunity for it to be discussed openly, should we decide at deliberations.
What we will deliberate next week is if council so chooses, wants to take the equivalent of a COLA or of a step out of the budget, then that's what we're hoping you'll vote on. And then you will leave it up to us to determine what we need to do with it.
Okay, thank you.
So just for clarification, we're just discussing the number of, not individuals, not positions, and like that. We're just discussing the number of COLA and merit, correct? Go ahead, Jay.
Sorry, so just to clarify, so the intent is not to make the number public at some point. The intent is to have the conversation and get all of the points of view in closed session, and then come out of closed session and be like, we would like to make a motion that says X. Great. Vote on it, be done. The debate has already been done in private so that it's not damaging, right? You can make whatever the number it is. We can announce that number with the motion that's done. It's about having the conversation in private and that have a conversation. It's not about not making it public or known at the end or anything from that perspective. It's about it's very challenging to listen to a conversation about your compensation and up and down and back and forth and all over the place. The roller coaster is the painful part. At the end, whatever the number is, great. But they won't have been put through that experience is the intent.
I just want to declare procedurally that debate does not actually happen in closed session. The conversation would happen in closed session, but not the actual debate part of debating the motion. I just wanted to provide clarity on that.
And I also want to clarify that's not the intent at all. The intent is to get a number that has been proposed, so it's already been determined in terms of cost of living increase as well as merit increase. It's a simple question. Again, not voting on the matter. What is the number that you have proposed?
Councillor Van Newkirk?
Yeah, thank you. Just a question for administration. Do you have those numbers readily available? Like, we should be in camera for about 2 minutes. I'm seeing nods up and down. Thank you.
And Councillor Colesmith, and then we can go into the motion.
I'm not even sure how to ask this. So, Councillor Natellenboss, you're just asking that we have the numbers shared. There isn't debate. The issue was, the concern from administration was the process of debate. That's what led to the consternation. So if we're not having a debate on the numbers, is there an objection to sharing the number?
No, I guess that would be fine. Yeah. If we're good, then I guess we don't need to go into closed. We're not discussing it, it's just for information. So I guess my question would be to CAO, is the percentage sensitive or is there just a dollar value preferred?
Do we need to take this motion off the city?
Well, just hold on, because I asked for both of those, so it'll depend on that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time debating this motion. Yeah, let's just proceed. We'll share the number and we'll share the percentage.
With the understanding there isn't debate about the value.
No, this is about gathering information.
Just making that clear.
Sorry for the confusion.
Okay.
So if we're going to go ahead procedurally, I will just ask Councillor Hyde to withdraw the motion that's currently on the floor, and then if I can have consensus from council that that's okay.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'd like to redact the motion that council go into closed session.
Thank you.
So we're now voting to withdraw the motion. Councillor Natellenboss, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay, that passed unanimously. All right, so is that for you?
I'm on the spot, yes.
Okay.
So, the cost of living allowance assumption is 2%. And is reflected as in $342,000 for municipal and just under $3,000 for utility. Merit value is let's say rounded to $310,000. with about $3,000 for utilities. So the totals, COLA is $344,000, 839. And merit is 312,727. So that's just over 1% impact for COLA and 1% for merit.
Thank you. Okay, you can continue.
I totally forgot what we were talking about. Were there any other questions on what this department does?
We do have a question here, Councillor Murray.
Yes, thank you. I am curious about the 1.3 million for grants. And it's listed as an expense. So can you just give a bit of clarity to that, please?
Through the merit of the councillor, so the city does provide grant opportunities to community groups and such through I believe it's facilitated through community services. And so that is expense dollars that the city gives out to the community. It's outgoing grants as opposed to incoming grants.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because when in your listing, like in this little document that you've included for us, I thought that it was closer to 300,000.
My apologies. So the library is also a grant expense from this perspective.
Okay.
My apologies.
That's what that is the
My next question is just about the rental cost. I just didn't understand how that falls in, and it's under the revenues. Sorry, not cost, revenue.
Rental revenue. I'd have to look back at that one and get the detail for you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Did you want to continue, or we have another department? Oh, wait, Councillor Hyde?
Yeah, I was just saying that if we're done with corporate transactions, after that strong last little minute, maybe we need just a quick 5-minute break just to get our minds back in order.
Yeah, Jay, did you want to?
This is the last slide, so
Yeah,
it just reflects
just
you
add
guys
up
are all
that,
looking
and
at
then we'll take a break.
the materials in the binder. But basically, so we have a slight increase in revenues, holding the line at expenses, and increasing reserve transfers. That doesn't look right either. Sorry, my apologies. Let me double check that. Oh no, that is correct, sorry. I'm losing my mind a little bit. It's been a rough little stretch. So that's a net, because I was expecting to see a larger transfer number, but there's net changes in there.
So, looking at page 20,
Yep.
it looks like a substantial jump from 2026 to 20, the net changes requested. 2026, 2027, at 200 and almost 300,000, not quite, and then to 2028, another 500,000, 600,000, another 600,000, 2029.
I can speak to that. So I guess let me just back up 1 second to the lease or the rental revenue is for the TELUS lease agreement. So that's what that revenue is for.
The rental?
Yeah, TELUS, it's TELUS rental revenue, or we get rental revenue from TELUS. It's a lease agreement. And then, so you're looking at on the page 20, the corporate transactions, so the budget right size, so that $600,000 a year increase is that reserve replenishment strategy that I talked to in this morning's presentation. $600,000 a year compounding every year, so that's what that expense increase is each year.
So it's a reserve, a topping up of the reserve?
100%, yes.
Okay. And is that a specific reserve, or, sorry, just?
So for now, it's going into the municipal operations stabilization and contingency reserve.
Okay.
Until that is at a healthy position, then we would assess our other reserves and see if there's additional help with those.
Any other questions on this area, this department? Thank you. And thank you, Administration, we will take a 5-minute break and come back. All right, are we ready to get going? Good. Okay, so we're going to continue on with the department presentations, and who do we have up next? Mike? Communication number 17. Oh, number 17. Okay,
No,
there we go.
17, correct, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the benefit of those who might be watching remotely, my name is Mike Berezowski. I'm the Director of Communications and Information Technology Services. Very pleased to present the details of my department's budget for 2026. To give you a bit of an overview, first of all, of the department and what we do, the Communications and Information Technology Services Department came together this past August with the consolidation of two previously separate departments, Communications and Service Experience and Corporate Analytics and Technology. At the high level, the department is responsible for developing the overarching communications and IT strategies for the organization, as well as supporting the operational day-to-day communications and IT needs for city departments. CITS also includes the Service Experience Office. Now, this is the Citizen Contact Center that was launched in spring of 2024 with the intent of gradually consolidating most citizen touchpoints with the city into one office to provide a higher standard of customer service and deliver efficiencies for operational areas. Our programs include public-facing services, as well as services to other departments within the organization. Information and promotions is our primary focus for communications. We manage a range of channels, including social media, website, the quarterly communique, that's the newsletter that goes with utility bills, as well as other mediums. And this is how we keep residents informed about what's happening within the city, city programs, events, policies, and other initiatives. Issues management involves keeping an eye on the horizon for potential issues that could affect the city's reputation and developing strategies to mitigate them. Media relations, exactly what it sounds like. It's a relationship with media. It includes the coordination of media interview requests, pitching stories to the media, as well as distributing news releases. Public engagement is a shared responsibility with individual departments, generally responsible for carrying out the engagement activity. My department is primarily responsible for providing guidance in alignment with Council's public participation policy and developing the supporting content for engagement. On the IT side, the department looks after the organization's technology needs from hardware to software. We're responsible for the upkeep of IT infrastructure and network security. The department also includes the GIS and data analytics team that maintains maps with data from everything from land uses to development to the city's infrastructure. This system supports work like planning for development and service delivery, the management of our assets and infrastructure, and the team has also developed map-based tools used in public engagement. We have a business directory that is map-based, as well as a healthcare services directory where people can find healthcare services in and around the community. Our team also supports other departments when they need technology solutions, whether it's automating workflows or supporting the procurement of cost-effective technology that enables our employees to serve the public. The Citizen Contact Center was established in summer of 2024, as I mentioned. The goal isn't just to respond to citizen questions and concerns, but to improve the overall experience and create operational efficiencies. So currently, the Service Experience Office team manages inquiries for parks and roads, waste management, and the processing of business licenses. With each area that becomes consolidated within the center's services, the team conducts a comprehensive process mapping, then identifies opportunities to streamline or enhance those processes. They're actually embedded with the business area during that onboarding process to learn and understand their processes and workflows, and then they recommend efficiencies for customer service and transactions. So what we have coming up in 2026, we have quite a few technology projects either in the works or planned. Currently, we're supporting the finance department with the implementation of an enterprise resource planning system with the target of replacing our outdated financial system by mid-year. With our restructuring in August, we created a project management office to enhance our ability to deliver IT projects on time and on budget. This includes workflows and processes to ensure projects that proceed are aligned with the strategic priorities for the community and the organization. And on the communication side, we're planning to launch a system that allows residents to subscribe for notices such as text or email regarding everything from water and fire bans to recreation program registration dates. Now, to date, as I've mentioned, the Service Experience Office has integrated system touchpoints for parks and roads, business licensing, and waste management. As capacity allows in 2026, we'll continue that work to integrate other service areas. Our department also manages a software license for a range of apps and systems that support everything from the screens at the Recreation Center to the system that supports council meetings and agendas. In 2025, we inventoried all of these applications and surveyed staff to determine how they're used, whether they are effective, and identify technology or training gaps. We've started our analysis of those findings, and work will continue through 2026. The main purpose is to make sure that people have the right tools to do their jobs, but we expect that there might be some efficiencies and savings achieved through that process as well. Pending budget approval, our team will support the Planning and Development Department to source and implement an electronic permitting system that would allow residents, businesses, and developers to apply for permits online. And finally, as our organization grows, we require a scalable solution for records management. Working with legal and legislative services, we'll support the transition of our records management from a shared drive to a cloud-based solution that ensures the security of information, is compliant with privacy and access legislation, and facilitates ways for our teams to collaborate more effectively. Now we get to toot our own horn a little bit. Over the past year and a half, we transitioned away from landlines to an internet-based phone system. Not only has the cost savings been significant, and you'll get a chance to see that in just a minute, but it provides more flexibility for our workforce. As I've mentioned, the Service Experience Office has two key goals: consolidating service contacts, but it's also about that consistent experience for residents and operational efficiencies. So, with the onboarding, we've had the embedding of the service area to understand their business so they can not only handle calls and emails and provide resolutions for most requests and concerns, such as the ordering of waste bins for a new home. It frees up operational capacity for the department so that they can focus on their service delivery. And additionally, the department restructuring in August was undertaken largely using vacant positions to align the team with the organization's priorities. In addition to standing up a project management office, we set up the GIS and data analytics team as a separate business unit as we look to leverage data in decision-making, driving operational efficiencies and service innovation. So to get to our numbers here, our biggest cost drivers in 2026 are software licensing and hardware replacement. Now we have a replacement schedule for laptops and phones that is supported in the operating budget. Network equipment and other hardware systems are found in capital. And we're working on a strategy to manage software costs. However, hardware costs will likely to continue to be a challenge with supply chain dynamics, market demand, and geopolitics all affecting the price of technology. The department's expense is estimated to increase by 2% next year, though the impact to the tax levy is offset by increased transfers. So a number of our services provided by the department support the utility operations, so appropriately those items are funded by the utility budget. The net impact then for the tax levy is pretty much none. Now, to give you a detailed picture on how that breaks down, or at least a little more detailed, our transition from phone lines is producing a cost savings of $100,000 a year. That's helping offset the increases for evergreening end-user hardware, such as laptops and mobile devices, including a more accurate accounting of equipment replacing costs with new hires, addressing the higher cost of equipment, and funding the replacement of cell phones, which we have not accounted for in the past. Software licensing includes increases for our existing contracts, as well as accounting for new software solutions that hadn't been funded in the past year. Again, you've heard Jay talk about right-sizing our budget. That's what we're doing here. To address this in the longer term, we will be establishing a process to better manage the life cycle of applications used in the organization and ensure any new solutions adopted have funding attached to them. Finally, we are budgeting $20,000 in 2026 for the procurement and implementation of the public notification platform. We held an open request for information earlier this year that resulted in several submissions, and if funding is approved, we will proceed with the competitive procurement in 2026. So that concludes the overview for communications and information technology. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I have members of my team available online to support me with subject matter expertise if I'm not able to provide enough detail. I guess, like Jay, I have my wizards as well.
Thank you so much. So can you reiterate, right here, when the public engagement, you said that 20,000 was for procurement and application process, a system, correct?
Correct. And the procurement, the ongoing licensing cost would be $15,000 after the first year.
The licensing cost of that software?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's based on the RFIs that we received and looking at what the costs in the marketplace would likely be.
Okay. And sorry, can you reiterate if you talked about e-permitting, do you also have a plan in this budget as well to set up a system for customer response time, like customer service online, automated system?
So a CRM, basically, a customer relationship management
Customer
tool?
relationship, or when people have questions, they ask questions and it kind of triages into who gets directed to whoever can answer that question?
So currently, the what do we call it? The citizen inquiry tool, the report a non-emergency tool on the website provides that function. Now, it's not as robust as a CRM would be, and that's something we will be looking at in future years, once we get through a few of these major technology projects, of course. But it does provide us with a way for people to submit questions. It's map-based, so people can drop a pinpoint if there's a specific location that say they want to report a pothole. That then goes through the service experience office, and they might triage that. Is it something that they are able to answer themselves, like it's a roads and parks inquiry or waste management? Maybe it's new residents ordering bins. They can manage that themselves. If it's something that might need escalation, it can go into the department. As well as business licensing, they handle the transaction of business license, mostly renewals in January, but also throughout the year for new businesses. And so that tracks all of those inquiries. And there is actually a report that has been requested through a motion in council that will be coming in, I believe it's Q3 of next year with KPIs on the performance of that.
Okay. And just one last question about that. So if that system is already in place, is that also capable of, I guess that report will tell us more about that, but in terms of, is that sufficient, or do you need to have another whole new system to implement for a more efficient customer response?
So that is, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's what we plan to scope out in the next year, is what are the business needs? Because we have had requests from other departments too for a CRM tool. So we'll be scoping out what does that look like, what do we need for the organization? Is it something that maybe we can get by with our current system, or do we need something more robust? We do know right now the limitations with KPIs. It requires a lot of manual work to track and compile KPIs with the current system, so that is a challenge. But that's something we'll have to look at. Is there a business case to support a request for a CRM at some point in the future?
Okay, and so the current system that you have, was that an in-house making, or was that a software that was purchased?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is called CityWorks, and it's from a vendor called Esri in Canada.
Okay, thank you.
So it is software that we license.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Newkirk, and then Councillor Cole-Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. A little bit of what you were noodling away at took care of most of my questions. I think what's remaining for me is the second half. So implement a system to notify citizens of non-emergency updates and other information. And I think somewhere else it said like it's an opt-in program. I'm just wondering, what is the vision for that? Is it going to be like provide your email with the tax roll so that we can send you stuff, or is it going to be enter here and enter your name in and subscribe for our newsletter type thing? Like, what does that look like? And the reason I'm asking, that little bit deeper question is because there is a great segment of Beaumont right now that wants to learn more and wants to be on the receiving end of more, and just maybe it's premature. I don't know. Do you have any idea what that could look like or what that might look like?
So, without getting too far and presupposing what the solution will be, I mean, I can say that consistently with the RFIs that we received, it would be integrated within the website where you could sign up and select, ideally, what we'd like is to have a solution where you can select certain topics.
Yep.
Councillor Van Newkirk, and that there would be some that I think we would make mandatory, such as water bans, fire bans. Once you've signed up, you get those.
Yep.
It wouldn't be something if you're signed up for taxes or we have to, of course, keep in mind what that information was collected for to respect privacy legislation. So this would have to be an opt-in thing. But there would be a campaign, of course, to promote that once that solution is in place.
Yeah, great. Okay, yeah, that opt-in piece, enter here, press the button to get it rolling. Thank you very much.
Councillor Colesmith and then Councillor Hyde.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it was said that software licensing was one of the major drivers. Would that include like the service agreement? There's usually the license and then the support and service agreement that comes with some of the software. And that would be in the same budget. I'm looking at page 24 here of the budget document. I just noticed that those software and licensing fees they're going up a bit, but they're relatively flat. Is that, like, that's a good thing, but is that indicative of what will happen? Like, do we expect them to remain that flat?
Through the mayor to Councillor Colesmith, do you mean the future years?
Yeah, just looking at the future years, having dealt with software in the past, I know it's, I call it the protection money. You got to pay for the support service in case something happens, right?
Well, thank you, Councillor, for the question. So I guess to play the new guy card a little bit here, and we've also recently, in the last couple of months, recruited a new manager of IT as well. This goes back to the application lifecycle review that we're doing and setting up a better system to manage our applications, is that we really didn't want to, it's really hard for us to forecast out past next year what our costs might look like. We are hoping to find some efficiencies and opportunities to maybe either repurpose some of our licenses, reallocate some of the costs that we currently have to licenses that would be more effective for our staff. I'll give you an example too. We were able to do that with our Adobe licensing already. And what we were able to do is go through, we hold licenses for Acrobat, Adobe Creative Suite, and Acrobat Pro, for example. There were a number of people who had Adobe Creative Suite, which is considerably more expensive. Upon talking to them and examining that in more detail, most people really didn't need it for that purpose. We were able to downgrade those licenses to Pro, give more people Pro who needed it, so we had a larger number of licenses available overall for our staff with the cost savings. Now, it was $5,000 on a total cost of $35,000, but it gives you an example of where we're hoping to achieve some potential savings in the next year. So I think in probably next year's budget, you might see a bit of a different picture, but that's where we're at right now.
That's great, thank you.
If I could, just follow up, Madam Mayor. So just wanted to provide some clarity. So as we move into the budget overhaul this year and the change in process and mechanics, and as we continue to mature the process, we'll get more sophisticated at the out-year planning. Currently, we're not where, I don't know that we're there where I would like us to be in the long term, but you eat an elephant one bite at a time, and so that will be an attention focus for in future years. So when you look at a lot of these numbers and it's flat in the out years, that's not counting for inflation and other elements like that. So we'll be adjusting that as we come forward and to get more sophistication in our out year projections. So I don't want to make an assumption that we just think that it's this dollar forever and software contracts don't go up or anything else doesn't go up, because a lot of the numbers are like that. There's a few spots where we know and people have started to put in inflational elements, but it's not uniform. So I just want to, that's a caveat for everybody's presentation. Don't get too hung up on the out years so much as the idea of the service itself.
Yes, what he said.
Thank you. Councillor Natellenboss has a question, then Councillor Hyde.
Perfect, thank you, Mayor. Just a question in regard to current FTEs, and I'm assuming there's no change based on these numbers?
That's correct. Through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, there are 19 FTEs in the department, including me, and there has been no change in the count. And there's no change proposed.
Perfect, thank you. I know we talked earlier about reduced costs when we work with other municipalities. Does that exist with some of these softwares that you described earlier?
Through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, can you repeat that? I'm not sure I quite understood.
Sorry, we just talked about some cost savings and efficiencies when we work with other municipalities or within the region. Does that apply with some of the software services that we're looking at?
Thank you, Councillor, for clarifying. You know, that's something I'd have to look into more, but typically, when you're buying software licenses, they have strict rules about how those licenses are allocated. So, no, certainly there are opportunities through standing offers with the Alberta government, as well as canoe procurement, that we will be exploring as well. So those present sometimes the same types of options that would be possible with bundling with other municipalities, but those are opportunities we certainly will be exploring.
Perfect, and one last question. I'll lead up with, does Beaumont look after the Savvy Waste app, or is that a third party? And then my next question just leads into the public notification platforms. Because although the Savvy Waste app may not be the best app, it definitely gives notifications and lets users know when something's happening. Is that something we could work off of?
Thank you through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss. It wouldn't give us the functionality that we're looking for. You know, certainly, actually, we have, I don't have the latest numbers, but we do have considerable amount of utilization of that app by residents. And, you know, ideally it would be great to use an existing tool that we have, but it just does not have the type of functionality that we'd be looking for.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Natellenboss and Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Brzezowski. Similar to the same question that Nathan was asking as far as an app goes, piggybacking off of the Savvy app that is out there for the waste management and such like that. And similar to what Councillor Van Nieuwkerk was saying, for notifying the public, there is an appetite for more communication with the public. And signing up for something as simple as an app sometimes is the best way for people to get those notifications, because nobody leaves their house without their phone anymore. So is there discussion about that, that type of notification, or is it going to be email based?
Through the mayor to Councillor Hyde. Again, not to presuppose what the actual technology solution would look like that we decide to go with. The range of RFIs that we saw included everything from text-based to apps, mobile device apps, to email, or a combination. So that's something we will certainly be considering. Thank you.
Thank you. So just two more questions I have for you. So can you just speak to the contract and general services again, just for public transparency and kind of a breakdown, because it's 189,000 increase, or is that for setup of, or for a new system?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the question. So the increase in 2026 is that includes primarily the software licensing. That's where that number is found. The increases that you see for the change requests, that's rolled up into contracted and general services. But if you'd like, I can give you a little bit more of a breakdown of what's contained in that global number of the 177,500 for 2026. I looked that up while the conversation was happening and started to write it down. So there's a number of things, but these are some of the bigger items. Software licensing is roughly $800,000 of that. Managed services, so this is our desktop support. That's contracted out. That's approximately 400 to 450K per year. Advertising, we have a budget of 130,000 a year, and advertising is included in that. As well as for GIS, we conduct we have a vendor who provides aerial photography every year, and that's roughly 80,000 K of that number. So those are some of the larger pieces of that. Now there are times where we may need contracted support for maybe some development work on some of our applications or other areas. One thing we might be contemplating too with our project management office is, depending on workload, we may need to contract a business analyst or a project manager. So we do have some room within our contracting budget for that as well. But those were the larger numbers that are wrapped up in that.
Thank you. So just to clarify, that 800,000 for the software licensing, that's for, I'm assuming, multiple software licensing?
Correct, Madam Mayor. That's everything from Microsoft. My goodness, it's quite a lengthy list.
That's okay. I just wanted to
but
clarify, it's not just one.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And, for some of these licenses, we have to have a license for every single employee. So Microsoft, Adobe, for example, every user has to have a license, so we have to pay for that by seat. So that is the cost of doing business.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Oh, Councillor Ntalmbas, your hand was up. Oh,
Sorry, that was from previously.
Okay, no problem. All right, no more questions. Anything else that you need to convey to us?
Madam Mayor, thank you very much. No further questions.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Who's on deck next? Jay?
It's like a drinking game. Every other turn is mine. Presenting my department budget today. Presenting my department budget today. So what do we do? My area is responsible for 4 different programs. So we have financial planning and forecasting. So that involves the annual budget process, long-term financial planning, quarterly forecasting and projections. I handle procurement, as been previously discovered. So corporate procurements falls under my domain. So any of the big ticket ones that require corporate oversight. We also support smaller departmental training and departmental procurements for the smaller dollar values. And we do provide oversight as well to ensure compliance with policies and treaties. I'm also responsible for financial reporting and cash management. So the accounting and financial statements, accounts payable, accounts receivable, the cash handling and the banking. And then I have taxation and utility billing. So that's managing the tax roll, utility counts, sending out tax and assessment notices, and bi-monthly utility billing. Pardon me. Focuses for finance in 2026. So we are still in the process of implementing the ERP system. That is, as we move towards digitizing and automating a bunch of our business processes, our current ERP platform is no longer supported and will be discontinued in 2028. So this was a needs to happen exercise. So we are in process. We are projected to go live at the end of Q2 next year. Supplemental to the go live, the next focus will be the review and optimization of the financial processes and activities. So that's post go live, and the idea is to find efficiencies, learn the system, and streamline processes. And that'll be more than just a second half of the year exercise. That'll probably take a couple of years to evaluate all of those processes and implement changes. And then the other priority that we have for 2026 is there's a number of financial policies and exercise or processes that are a little bit out of date. So I'm going to be bringing back quite a few of them through the next year. I'm averaging one policy per quarter, but there'll be times when I think I have two. So. So service level considerations. So all of my programs are mandated. So I have 3 enabling functions. So that's the planning and forecasting, accounting, reporting, and procurement, and then 1 public facing, the assessment and taxation. Really, my biggest pressure and challenge that I have is volume. So the organization, as we said, in the city has grown, and subsequently the organization has grown quite a bit since 2019. But we haven't really had a lot of growth in personnel to process all of the pieces. So we have, I think, close to 9,000 utility accounts through the city, right? So we send those out bi-monthly. We have massive growth in the number of subdivisions over the years, and so the number of tax roll accounts, and we have to send out tax notices. And the change in process a couple years ago, where used to be just a tax notice with your tax bill all in one. Now we have to do 2 runs of that. So there's one in January, February with the tax assessment piece, and the tax bills in May or April. The amount of work being done by the organization. So the number of procurements we do, the number of bills we pay, the number of invoices we receive, all of these things with the volume of as the organization grows, the transactional volume is really immense. Now, I don't have any real resource requests to support this, because the idea is the ERP system, when it comes online, should support making some of those, easing the volume and bringing the pressure down. But I don't know what that looks like at the moment, right? So that's really the biggest challenge that I have right now is capacity and volume of activity. So some of the efficiencies that we're working on. So as we continue to move towards the new ERP system, we are leveraging our existing softwares, and I use that plural because we have a budget software and a reporting software that kind of talk to each other, and kind of hobble our way through trying to mature the process. But again, transactional volume is the biggest challenge. It's also balancing the operational capacity. So with the massive amount of growth in transactional activity, I also have the challenge of resourcing the ERP team. And so you have to have the experts in the area for accounts payable and accounts receivable and those elements to build the system, but then that leaves challenges in actually doing the work that they're supposed to be doing as well. So it's a real struggle. So the staff is really rising to the challenge. There's a lot of extra effort, extra time put in, unrecorded, right? So the people are really rising. But that's not sustainable, right? So asking people to work, you don't run your car in the red line indefinitely. You might get it there occasionally once in a while, but it's not good practice to just have the pedal to the floor, because you're going to burn it out. Same with people, in my opinion. As I mentioned, no additional resource asks in 2026. I need to assess the environment post go live. And then a little bit procurement savings. So this was mentioned this morning a little bit of some things. So on a $386,000 budget for 6 major procurements, we saved $68,000, so 18% on the actual returns. So there is value coming back from this function. A little bit about my budget. So revenues, you see, I somehow lost all my money, and that is due to, not good for the finance guy, due to the library went independent, I guess would be a way to say that. So they have their own accounting function and service. They're part of the library association. So we used to charge them for accounting services and all those pieces, but now they have left and they've become a teenager and moved out of the house from that perspective. and so I'm no longer allowed to build and rent. So the $38,000 is a reflection of the loss of revenue from that perspective. Expenses go down quite a bit on this, and that's largely due to the ERP funding and the expenses associated with that. So that's the expense side. So it was in the 2025 budget. It's not currently in the 2026 budget. It'll be part of a carryover, but that's how it's reflected right now. And then the reserve funding is also the big drop off in the on the transfer side. So drop in planned expense, drop in planned reserve contributions. So that leaves me about $185,000 difference in budget, which is, we'll get into some of the service conversation. So there's really three drivers. So we'll talk a little bit about personnel. So there are temp staff that were supporting the ERP. We had some term positions come on, so they're being extended until the go live to figure out what that looks like. So there is personnel costs in that element, as well as, so we have an accounting base right size, $51,000. That's largely due to contracted services. So our cash, I don't want to say the name, I get in trouble for that, but the cash collection contract, we have a security company that picks up cash, moves it around, does all the things, so that contract went up, as well as postage and contracts from that perspective of mailing out utilities and taxation notices. We have a company that works with us on that. And then no amount is too small for me, so we have $1,000 in adjustments on procurement. It's just actually right sizing. It's very small dollars. Anyways, and so with that, I'd be happy to take questions.
For
Enterprise resource planning software.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Mayor, I do, just really quickly.
Go ahead.
So Jay, just a couple of questions here. One, in terms of full-time staff, what are you currently at?
So I'm currently at 11 permanent staff and 3 term positions.
Perfect. And the 3-term, does that consider the group that'll be working on the ERP?
So they are the backfills to support the work on the ERP, yes.
Okay, awesome. And the next question, just relating to the ERP software. I mean, traditionally, you'll see a reduction in labor when we invest in a software, at least if it provides a lot of value. Are you anticipating, a 10 to 20% reduction on the administrative side, or is it just to fill in the gap because we're switching software?
I would not anticipate a reduction. If anything, it'd be likely that I would need resources next year, but I can't quantify what that means. So with efficiencies with the transactions, that would create some savings, but we are struggling just to keep up as is right now. And then so managing and whatever new processes come out of that. So again, my gut says that I will need more resources. I don't anticipate not keeping what I have, and it'll just be a matter of getting back to no more unpaid overtime and things like that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hyde and then Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yeah, great to hear your voice again. I hadn't heard it for at least an hour, so that was good to hear. Just looking at your budget here on personnel, the 126,351, which is 9%. Is that to hire another body then to help out? Is that a full-time position that you're looking at? I see we have quite a reduction in contract personnel and general services from 1.4 down to 300,000. So thank you for that. But yeah, just a clarification on the personnel, and is that in the right sizing part of it?
So that is those are the extension of the term positions for the ERP. Originally, when the budgets were set, it was anticipated. So when I came on, the ERP was on hold as a change in financial leadership. And so the budget was just extended through 1 year, and that was our normal budgeting process. So it is the continued extension of those term positions to support the ERP transition. So that's what the increase is in 2026.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor, no, you're good? Good, sorry about that, yeah. Could you speak to the contract and general services? That's a big jump down. It's good,
So
looks good.
The lion's share is the ERP. So it was one-time dollars and one-time expenses that were planned in 2025 and that aren't, so for the, I'm gonna get in a loop here. So the normal process for, at year end, when we get to the end of the year, there will be a operating carry forward process, right? I don't know how much I need to carry forward because we're doing the work right now, but at year end, we'll have a number. At that point, the ERP is not planned to be in 2026. I won't be done it, so there will be an ask to do the operations piece added back in later on in the new year once I have a real number to add. But that right now is representing the ERP being done, and so no more expenses and no more reserve contributions to pay for that. So that's what the two big drop-offs are. It's at just under $1 million for that big share. If you give me a minute, I can dig up the other pieces. Oh, sorry, screen shrunk. Sorry, it was 1.1 million. It was the ERP. So that's almost all of that value is the ERP on that one.
Okay. And that includes the software or no?
Yeah, so that's the implementation, the software, licensing, the
Everything.
staff to get it on board, all of that was requested, yes, the full package.
Perfect, thank you for that. Any other questions, Councillor? Councillor Tellenboss, do you have any other questions?
I do not. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thank you so much. Oh, we're good? All right, good. Thank you so much, Jay. Who's on deck next? Number 10. Legal.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead, Ms. Stargy.
So good afternoon. Beaumont's governance processes are consistent, legally sound, and aligned with federal, provincial, and municipal legislation. The department provides support to mayor and council, including correspondence, scheduling, and coordination of council's participation in community and external events. We also support council's boards and committees, including recruitment, appointment processes, bylaw and policy support, and training for new members. And then our team also manages reception at City Hall, which serves as the public's front door to the organization, including customer service, bill payments, and general inquiries. This slide captures the department's legislative and governance functions. We are responsible for council agenda management, including preparing the agenda, publishing reports, and preparing minutes. We also advise on the legislative and procedural requirements that guides council's decision-making. We coordinate council orientation and ongoing professional development while ensuring council has the governance tools, training, and information needed to carry out their roles. Our department is also responsible for administering both the municipal elections and the municipal census. This includes legislative compliance, candidate support, and ensuring transparency and accuracy in these processes. We lead the city's access to information and records management functions, ensuring compliance with provincial privacy legislation, supporting access to information requests, and guiding the transition to modern records tools, including SharePoint. We work with regional partners and neighboring municipalities and provide support to council to advance Beaumont's interests and strengthen our position in the region. This includes monitoring legislation changes, preparing briefings, and ensuring Beaumont's voice is heard at the regional, provincial, and federal levels. Ultimately, this work helps position Beaumont as a collaborative and well-connected partner in the region and beyond. Finally, legal and legislative services is also responsible for ensuring the city's bylaws, policies, and directives are up to date and aligned with legislation, best practices, and council's direction. We provide internal legal support, coordinating legal matters across all departments to manage risk, ensure compliance, and support operational decision-making. These functions, policy development, bylaw oversight, and legal coordination help maintain consistency, reduce risk, and ensure organizational alignment with legislation and council's strategic direction. This is some of the work that we have planned coming forward for 2026 to council. Much of it is bylaw and policy related, as you can see, and these are have been scheduled for. Some of these bylaws are scheduled for an automatic kind of review and renewal. Some of them are new. The ones with asterisks are is work that we are partnering with other departments on, ensuring that that work is done and brought forward to council. And then our ongoing and continuing work is we are looking at doing an overall policy review in 2026. As mentioned, as one of our primary objectives is records information and management. So with some of the legislation changes, we're looking at implementing some new processes, as well as ensuring that our records are transitioned to SharePoint appropriately. Compliance with access to information legislation is ongoing, and we're looking to increase and continue the intergovernmental relationship building and support. Some of the considerations or the challenges that that we've experienced in our department is the complexity of municipal governance continues to increase, driven by frequent provincial legislative changes, evolving compliance requirements, and the need for stronger documentation and procedural rigor. This places additional demands on both legal and legislative functions. We are continually balancing competing requests for legal and legislative support across the entire organization. As departments expand programs or introduce new initiatives, the need for legal review, records management or access to information and privacy review increases, policy updates and procedural guidance also increase correspondingly. Shifting regional and intergovernmental priorities, including the dissolution of the EMRB and the establishment of a new regional collaborative, require ongoing monitoring, relationship management, and preparation of briefings and recommendations. And then finally, records management is becoming more complex as both legislation and technology evolve. Ensuring compliance, supporting digital transitions such as SharePoint, and maintaining retention schedules continues to be a significant operational responsibility. Some of the things that I'm happy to provide information on are some of the efficiencies that we found this year. So we implemented, for the first time in 10 years, the first hand count for the municipality as legislated by the province. That was done efficiently and accurately, so it was very well done, and we've had a lot of comments back on that from people that that observed the process. We were happy to be able to do that. We launched a digital legal request tracking form. This is a centralized system that manages all the legal requests across the organization. It's made a big difference in how we coordinate our work. Everything is now tracked, deadlines are clear, and it's easier to monitor progress and accountability. And it also helps if we're missing a staff member or something, someone can then pick up that work and continue with it. We transitioned to an assessment review board. We had previously partnered with the County of Leduc to provide ARB services, and when our contract ended, they were not able to continue to assist. And the city simply doesn't receive enough assessment appeals to support having its own board. Members must have training and experience in fields like real estate, property appraisal, and law, and they must complete approved training programs and refresher training every 3 years. So we partnered with the Capital Region Assessment Services Commission to provide the services to the city. They provide assessment review board services to 31 municipalities, including in the region, Fort Saskatchewan, Stony Plain, and Devon. We introduced online registration for our open forum and public hearing opportunities, which has made it easier for residents to participate in council decision-making. It's a simple change that's enhanced transparency, accessibility, and engagement in our processes. And then finally, I'm happy to say we onboarded the 2025-2026 municipal intern. This is a partnership through the provincial internship program. It's a great opportunity to build leadership capacity, support mentorship within the team, and contribute to workforce development in the municipal sector. So we don't have a lot of changes to the LLS budget. As you can see in, there's a 31% change in the revenue. That revenue is actually government transfers and transfers from reserves due to the election and the costs that we needed to fund the election and the related costs to that. So it's not actually revenue that we were taking in. And then with the expenses, there is an increase there. We have an increase, and you'll see on the next slide, to some of our legal fees that have increased. So as you can see, what we're asking for 2026 is an increase to the boards and committees. There is a new committee that was established this year. It's the Municipal Policing Committee. It is a legislated committee for the municipality to have. We provide honorariums to committee members, and that is about $1,000 impact per year. And then the $17,000 increase is to legal fees. So when I looked at our 3-year average, so currently right now we have about $81,000 budgeted for legal fees. And our 3-year average is about $17,000 above that every year. So we are spending more than what we have budgeted for in legal fees. Some of the reasons for the increase as well is that when we have an SDAB appeal, the SDAB is an independent body of the city. So if they require legal support, we need to hire a separate legal counsel. Then the city would have their own legal counsel. So we're actually doubling the costs of that. So that then increases the fees that are being expended in our legal fees. And then under intergovernmental relations support, that's actually a typographical error. That $6,000 should be added to boards and committees. The $6,000 is the cost to contract out the assessment review board. That's what it costs us to be able to contract that out. So those are the differences for legal and legislative services in the upcoming year. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the floor? Us? How about you?
Just the same old question, full-time.
There is no change. We have 8 employees, including my position. We do included in, you'll see in the salaries, is also the salary for the municipal intern, as I'm the host for the municipal intern.
Perfect, thank you.
And is he included in the full-time, or is that just a separate 8?
He's included in the salary, but he's a full-time employee, but he's not a permanent employee.
So that 8 includes him?
Actually, that would be 9 with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Hyde.
Just a quick question on these contracted employees that we've been, not contracted employees, but intern employees and such like that. Are they covered under our employee plan? Are they fully covered as an employee, or are we classifying them as 6 months out, 3 months out? They have to be there for a year. It all goes within your own plans and budgeting and stuff like that. But I'm just wondering if we're paying all the other costs on top of them being an intern. So what I mean by that is, all the other costs that go along with it.
So thank you for the question. There are some associated costs with an intern. The province provides us with $60,000. That isn't, that money is to be attributed to a portion of their wage. $7,000 of that is also attributed to learnings, so they're required to attend certain conferences. It helps cover the cost of equipment for them, so if we have to purchase a new laptop. So there are some associated costs with having the intern, but some are also covered. And we're not paying, the position is not entitled to full benefits as well, because it's a term. So it's not a contract as in he's a contracted person, it's a term position.
Okay, so that $71,559, that is after the $60,000 that is given to us, or is it before? I'm just trying to see where that's reflected.
Sure. So it's reflected if you look on page 29, it's reflected over 2 years because the intern is onboarded on 2025. So the government transfer of $26,000 offsets the 2025 costs, and the $34,000 offsets the 2026 costs.
Okay, so those transfers are for our interns,
That's
basically,
correct.
is what you're looking at?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, I just wanted clarifications on that. Thanks
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Sorry, I just got a dry throat. Any other questions? Thank you. We're going to take a break, 5-minute break. All right, welcome back. We're going to resume here. Thank you for that last presentation. All right, go ahead. Please introduce yourself. South.
Good afternoon. I'm Donna Montney, Director of People Services. On what we do, employee well-being and safety focuses.
Sorry, just can you bring the microphone a little bit closer to you? Thank you.
Is that better? Okay. Employee well-being and safety focuses on ensuring that every employee has a safe and healthy environment to work in. We take proactive approach to safety by offering training, conducting inspections, and assessing risk before issues arrive. We support leaders in responding to incidents, managing return to work programs, and maintaining workplaces that are safe, productive, and compliant with legislative requirements. Organizational culture and engagement's goal is to create a workplace where people feel connected, respected, and engaged in the work they do. We support initiatives that build strong team relationships, encourage collaboration, and reinforce our organizational values. This work helps ensure employees feel included and informed, and that the culture supports both individual and organizational success. Under compensation and rewards, we manage the pay, benefits, and recognition programs to attract and retain the talent that we need. Our goal is to ensure that employees are fairly rewarded for their contributions and feel valued in their work. We ensure that rewards are fair, competitive, and aligned with organizational goals, and they guide leaders on recognizing performance consistently and transparently. And we support employees throughout their entire journey with the organization, from recruitment and onboarding to performance development and succession planning. By investing in learning, leadership development, and career growth, we build both individual capability and long-term organizational strength. This helps ensure that we have the right people in the right roles ready to meet the community's needs now and into the future. Some of our focuses for 2026 is a psychological safety program. This helps leaders build a culture of trust and openness where employees feel safe to speak up and share ideas. There were recent updates to Alberta's OH&S, Occupational Health and Safety legislation requires employers to now address both physical and the psychological hazards as part of their safety responsibilities. By strengthening leadership capacity through this program, we're supporting compliance and promoting a workplace that's safe, respectful, and healthy for everyone. We're also doing continuous improvement of our safety management system. We continue to enhance the management system, improving data collection and reporting and tracking of all safety-related activities. Under recruitment and selection, leadership training, this is ongoing from 2025 into 2026. This training supports leaders in applying consistent, transparent, and equitable hiring practices, ensuring all interviewed applicants have a positive experience. Oh, sorry. Our orientation and onboarding program, this is a new program that has been developed in 2025 and it's being rolled out in 2026, and it provides an engaging, consistent, and informative experience for all new employees, helping to integrate them successfully into the organization. Under learning and development, we're continuing to expand our professional and leadership development opportunities to support their growth, engagement, and retention across the organization. While these initiatives may not always be visible to the public, they are essential to ensuring our workplace is strong, supported, and ready to meet the needs of our growing community. Some of the operational efficiencies. We continue to modernize internal systems by digitizing key forms and workflows. This helps reduce manual work, improve accuracy, and give employees easier self-service access to the tools that they need. It has strengthened our data analytics and so we can make more informed decisions. Our recruitment process, we streamlined the recruitment process with clearer steps and better tools. This has shortened the hiring timelines and created a much smoother experience for both candidates and supervisors, helping us fill roles faster and maintain service continuity. And we've also expanded the Foundations of Leadership training series to include more emerging leaders. This also helps build leadership capacity, reinforces our corporate priorities, and supports a strong, consistent leadership culture across the organization. I also lost all my revenue, same as Jay. This is due to the library. We used to support the library in HR and safety, so we no longer do that. On the expense side, the overall increase, these dollars are required to maintain our current service level. I'll outline them on the next slide, but broadly this includes increased costs for our existing systems, per employee licensing and consulting supports. The remaining change of the budget is related to personnel costs, which include the standard adjustments. So under the employee experience and development, that's 70,000. This is our payroll, HR, and safety software platforms is the majority of this cost. This is billed on a per employee basis. And with workforce growth and annual licensing adjustments, the current budget is no longer sufficient to cover these mandatory costs. These systems support our accurate payroll, legislated record keeping, and employee data management, recruitment, and safety documentation, all of which are foundational to our operations. This request also includes funding for specialized consulting services, which we rely on for complex files, legislative updates, and organizational projects that required specialized expertise. The 3,000 under employee well-being and safety, this is mainly to support our hearing conservation program, which is mandated under Alberta OH&S legislation. This covers the annual audiometric testing for employees exposed to noise hazards and ensures the city remains compliant with provincial safety requirements. Without this funding, we would be unable to meet our regulatory obligations or properly protect employees working in higher risk environments. That's it for me. I guess I'll just preemptively say I have 11 FTEs. No change there. Yeah, any questions?
Similar to the last questions, the $52,000 in personnel and contracted and general services, is that to support you said no further FTEs, so I'm just wondering why that increase in the 52,000 is for personnel?
Sorry, is that under personnel?
Personnel, and there's also contract and general services of 58,863. That's on page 31.
Yeah, so the personnel is just the regular annual increases that have been built into the budget. The contracted and general services is what I talked about with the contracted services that we will require for complicated files, meeting legislative requirements, projects, things like doing compensation reviews, engagement surveys, that sort of thing. That's what the contracted services. So it's not to hire temporary staff. It's truly for contracted services.
Truly for contractor services. And you spoke to performance and talent development. Are you doing that through strategic KPIs, or are you doing that in an in-house way? How are you going to be rolling that out?
Yeah, so the program is under development right now, and we are rolling it out to some pilot groups right now. But it's tying our performance back to the organizational goals and priorities, and then also how do we measure it? So yes, how do we measure success? So it would include all of that for all employees.
Okay, all
Did that
right.
answer your question?
Yeah, again, going back to that personnel, you just basically said that has just to do with, that's not hiring anybody new. That's just cost of retaining our employees, I guess you could say.
Sorry, the personnel line
Yeah.
under
On 31?
expenses?
Yeah,
Yes, that's just,
retention.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Councillor Natellenbos.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Montney, for preemptively answering my question. So we're good there. Next question I had, obviously this budget pertains to your group, but I'm just curious where some of the other training costs are allocated. Would it fall under you, or would it fall under the specific department? And if so, under which expense would it fall under?
I think I'm gonna say it falls under a number of different spots. So each individual department will have training dollars, especially if it is specific to their roles or their operations. I have training dollars within my budget that is for org-wide training. So the leadership training that we put on is under my budget. The recruitment training is under my budget. If we're doing, any org-wide type training would fall under my budget. And where is it included here?
And I think that's
Under
my
personnel?
concern, and I think
Yeah.
this goes more to the finance side, is we see these line items, but they're very broad. So I'm assuming it falls under potentially personnel, but it would be nice for future budgets to be able to see a little more description and how some of these costs are allocated. I'm just curious where that training falls. I'm also curious where severance or mutual exit agreements would fall, as well as potentially higher on bonuses.
So the first two would fall under personnel. Sorry, and what was the last one you said?
So either higher on bonus if applicable, and then severance or mutual exit agreements.
Yeah, so we don't have hiring, signing bonuses, so that, we just don't have that. And if there's any severances, that is under personnel.
Okay, perfect. So I guess next question would be for Jay. In our next budget, are we able to highlight or at least dwell in a bit more and see some of these specifics? Because personnel, I mean, everyone just assumes that's people, but there's a lot more tied to that.
We will take a look at that and come back with a recommendation.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Quick question for you in regards to the increase to licensing permits and fees. Can you speak to that in terms of what kind of licensing permits and fees that entails?
Yeah, so that's all of our software systems that we use in people services. So our payroll and time and attendance system, our recruitment system, our safety management system, those are all based on a per employee per month cost.
Okay.
And so just the increase in employees increases the cost, but also the licensing costs go up every year.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay. Any other questions, councillors? Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Back to Jay? No? Number 17 is...
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Paul Suter, Director of Community Services. I wasn't sure if I was going to get to go today or not, but we're whipping through these internal departments. So I guess I'm the flag bearer for the external services team. I am not a financial wizard, so finance has already jammed me up with a couple of things here, not on purpose, but I'm just not grasping some of the groupings, but no, I'm just kidding. So we'll work through this. Obviously, our department is a large department. We have, Dawn and I were trying to count on our finger and toes how many people we have, and we've got about 103 FTE equivalents. Obviously, the bulk of those are casual staff. What we do, we provide services, we deal with people. We have a lot of people internally and we deal with a lot of people externally. Residents and surrounding area for sport, recreation, arts, community events, FCSS, Early Learning Child Care Center, and Chantal Berube Youth Center. Acting on the recommendations in our Places in Play, Beaumont's Recreation Parks Facilities Master Plan, our Inclusion Beaumont Social Master Plan, the department is working on short-term and medium-term priorities. We're also using these guiding principles and community and council committees, such as the Arts Advisory Committee, Grant Funding Advisory Committee, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee, and the Youth Advisory Committee. Community Services' goal is to continue completing these priorities and plan for the medium and long-term priorities. That's a lot of committees, and as you can appreciate, that is a lot of administrative time to support those. But I will honestly tell you that they do great work, and I firmly believe in the products that come out of that work that they do. Council will have 3 of the committees come forward here in December to do an annual report where they will talk about the work that they've done in the past year and hopefully set us up for some conversation going forward. So I think you'll look forward to the few minutes you get with them here in December. Focusing for 26, some of the stuff is ongoing. It started in 25. We're looking at aligning everything that we do with the department as so it's consistent, because when we merged back in 24, the two different areas, there was a lot of inconsistencies in how things were done, so we've been working on that and we'll continue to improve in that area. Some of the other stuff I'm going to highlight on this screen is improving and streamlining service delivery within arts and culture and events. There is a lot of work going on right now, Council, in that space. You saw some of that work last night at Committee of the Whole with the operating and grant conversation. And I know the team is working hard with taking all of the feedback that we have received from our applicants over the last year, as well as council comments and feedback, as well as what we've also learned in the back end working through that process. And we're going to bring that back early in 26 for a conversation at Committee of the Whole about how we can continue to improve our grant program, because I think we all agree that that work is needed and valued in the community, and it is a great way for council to continue to champion that we support arts, we support culture, and we support these endeavors in the community. We're currently developing a festival and event strategy, and that was a one-time operating project which started this year, and the bulk of it has gone on in the background for planning purposes, and now we're moving into the engagement phase. So you'll see that shortly. We are excited about that and where that's going to lead the future for that particular area. So on the social side, we're currently evaluating how we deliver our services. We haven't done a community needs assessment in that space, and it's coming up to 9 years, I guess it's been. And we all know, as we've talked about earlier today, the change in Beaumont in the past 9 years. And so therefore, I'm going to comment a little bit on contracted service. There's some conversation already today about whether we do stuff in-house or we contract it out, and what are the metrics, what are the decision-making points there. On that particular topic, when we first looked at it, we were going to have a budget ask to actually do a community needs assessment. And, it's probably ranging from $30,000 to $60,000, depending on what you scope in and out of that. At the time, we were understaffed over at FCSS. Now we're fully staffed. And a further conversation, we're going to look to do that ourselves. So we've got some really excellent folks have come on board with great skill set and experience, and we're fully confident we can do the bulk of that work to get us up to speed for 26. And then hopefully it'll just be a kind of an ongoing maintenance touch-up on that piece every year if needed. So I'm excited how we can look at those, and we do that all the time, quite frankly. We look at, is this something we outsource? Is it something that we can do in-house? And you need people to do it in-house. So now that we're up to staff over there, we're gonna do that. So, and then some other stuff we're working on, looking at how we can improve cost recovery and efficiency for childcare services. And then the future action is an ongoing long-term conversation to work with our friends in planning and other regional partners on how that can be addressed for Beaumont. Operational efficiencies. So again, I touched on that earlier. We combined the two areas, the recreation and community and social development in 24, both front-facing departments, very similar in nature as far as customer service and programs of service that they're delivering. And it seems to be working well. We've got a great management team where they collaborate frequently on everything, and there's consistency that's rolling out through that work. We also look at everything that comes along from all aspects now, because it's, we're all kind of together on the topic, so we can look at it from a couple of different lenses, and I think it's really starting to bear fruit for us, and we're really excited where the team's going. We're always trying to improve, as I mentioned earlier, with the grant program and council advisory committees. They've come a long way in the past 5-6 years, and you'll see some of that work that when they show up here next month. And we just recently provided a quarterly update, and that was the first time we've done that with some metrics, some data about what we do and how many times we do it. And it's still a work in progress. We will get better with that as we go. We just haven't wholesome or fulsome done that in the past to have it all in one spot. So a bit of a learning curve there for us. I mean, obviously you can imagine with the breadth of our area, what is it we want to track and why, and what do we learn from that? So continual improvement is important for us. So we are not, for 26, we are not asking for any additional resources. The changes you'll see are basically just a combination of increased revenue that we're anticipating, as well as some increased expenses for, predominantly staff costs, as well as some materials and supplies. We have looked at ways to cut some costs with contracted providers and general services across the department. There's a lot of stuff in there. We've asked, as we do every year, when it comes to our budget conversations and our planning, every area looks at what it cost us last year to deliver that program or service, and is there an opportunity to save some money or do something different. So that's an ongoing thing, an annual exercise, and again, you'll see some of that here. And that all kind of rolls up into these numbers that you're seeing. So a 2% increase in revenue anticipated, a 4% increase in expenses. Some of those expenses I will touch on, but we'll break it out. It's basically broken out here by program area. Bear with me here a sec, because I've got a couple of things open here. So the top one there is the childcare program. And we're anticipating, with a combination of adjustment for revenue, busing, and grants, about an $81,000 reduction in cost for that program for 26. The challenge with that program is the government, the province is looking to, again, change the funding formula and how they're going to deliver that for 26. We don't know what that looks like yet. We wait for that to see what they want to do in their efforts to, I think, deliver that maybe differently from the national $10 a day program. So we're waiting to see what that's going to look like, and that will impact the future potentially. Civic community events, we're going to spend about $8,000 to a couple of things there. Our stage needs an inspection and certification. That's done by an outside party. That's something that we never really budgeted properly for, so we're trying to factor that in. It's an ongoing thing every time they roll that stage out, that needs to be done annually to ensure that it's safe and that it's done independently and properly. As well, there's a little bit of dollars in there for some events, picnic tables, garbage bins, some chairs. Those sort of things are getting kind of tired, or they go missing, and we're looking to augment that. The recreation sport facility rentals, that is a bunch of things rolled into there. That would basically, just bear with me as I open yet another screen. So when we opened the BSRC, but prior to opening the BSRC in 2020, there was a business plan done when the decision was made to actually build that facility. And that business plan sort of predicted use, revenue expectations, and expense expectations. And that was a great starting point, but the challenge was I don't know that it really realized, or couldn't have realized, the growth and the true revenue and expenses that we were going to see. And then when we opened it during the pandemic, we obviously had the first year to almost 2 years where we weren't seeing a realistic picture of what it was going to cost to operate, as well as what it was going to generate for us. Now that we've seen all 3 years now of running at what we would say is the right amount, or right level, both in terms of cost and expenses, we've made some adjustments. We've overestimated in the past our ice rental number, as well as our field house rental number. So we've done a bit of a course correct on those to reflect what we're actually seeing the last 3 years. There's no sense when we see that pattern, we don't anticipate hitting where we were hoping yet. I think years to come, we'll probably get there, but we obviously were jumping the gun a little bit in the past, so we've adjusted there. We've also budgeted some money for some preventative maintenance on ice compressor, as well as some repairs to the sauna in the aquatic center. That was a $45,000 amount and a $57,000 touch for the ice compressor. So these are things we're trying to get ahead of. Rather than being reactive as much as we have been in the past, we're trying to get more prudent on planning in advance. We obviously always have maintenance a line in there for these things, but sometimes these particular items are bigger cost and they wouldn't fit in the existing budget because there's always something breaking. There's always something wearing out. I'm sure you do remember, but the aquatic center was there first, and we bolted onto it. So you've got two buildings in one, if you will. So you've got the new side and the old side. So the old side, as you would imagine, does cause us more issues from a maintenance perspective and therefore a cost perspective. Also rolled in there, we just got some adjustments to expenses and things like ice supplies and some other pool equipment, whether it's life jackets or pool toys and things that either, like I say, grow missing, wear out, get broken, whatever. So that's the team looking at what we're spending, what we anticipate we're going to need to spend, so we're reflecting that appropriately. What we also see is we're getting some revenue adjustments to the plus. So Nickel rental adjustments is going up, and some other spaces in the BSRC are going up. So that offsets some of those expenses that we're planning for, as well as we have had a successful recent conversation with Leduc County on cost sharing with rec. So, that particular agreement that we just signed this year in 25 went from a 400 and some odd thousand per year contribution to a $550,000 contribution for 2025. 26 goes up again, 27 goes up again. And that is an example of where we work very well with our regional partners. They obviously recognize that we are the nearest community to their residents for the most part that they're going to in the catchment space anyways that they define. And therefore that cost share agreement, it basically does it in 3-year chunks. We just signed it for 25, 26, 27. And they calculate about 11.43% of the overall operating costs that we provide for the applicable facility and or program and or service on the operating budget. So it's a success for us. We obviously want to keep that relationship very strong, and it's bearing its fruit there as they recognize the challenges that we've had with these costs, and they're contributing appropriately. They also contribute on the capital side to the same extent, and the process is basically when we know what we're planning to build or buy that's applicable in the agreement, we serve notice with them in a kind of an ad hoc committee that we form with 2 members of council on both sides and a member of admin. And we let them know, because we don't surprise them with a big ticket thing that we just bought or decided to build, and all of a sudden they know they're going to contribute. That's not fair to your partner. So that's an ongoing conversation, and we'll meet again in January of 26 and have further conversation about the existing agreement and moving forward. So it's nice to see the revenue kick up on that, because that offsets our operating costs, obviously. And then the other piece, Chantal Brube Youth Center, there's a $5,000 reduction, and that's just basically, again, like I mentioned earlier, the team looks at what they're spending historically, and they look at where they're just not hitting those marks, and they know they're not going to. So just a small reduction, but every little bit counts, and it just shows the discipline and the approach that we take when it comes to budgeting. And then the last piece that kind of addresses a combination of rec facility management is really around fees and charges. It's the biggest lever that we have to pull, and this year we're looking at a 5% increase across the board. Last year was 7%, partly because we had a 5% approach philosophically to it, as well as there was a significant spike, which infrastructure may speak to, on the utility side. So there was an additional 2% added to that to try and offset some of the power, gas bills that come with running your rec centers. So that there, provides, if you estimate our current use and a 5% increase, you're looking at about $120,000 that comes in there. So it gives us to the plus again there when you see that rec facility management piece. Short and sweet, even though it doesn't even come close to talking about the department, the things we do, and where we'd like to go. When I just look through my notes, which I never refer to for some reason, the biggest challenge that we have is people are recruiting and retention, and it's going to be that way, I think, when you have this many folks in different areas. The one thing I will say to our people is there's a word that comes to mind, it's resilience. No matter what we've thrown at them, whether it's adding a facility, the pandemic, whatever we're doing and trying to operate within, they keep going. So that to me is the word that jumps out. And the other thing I will say is not only when it comes to recruiting and retention, it's the skill set that we're finding is tremendous. We're bringing in people who are very experienced in most cases, and they're really raising the bar in all areas. And I think you're seeing that quietly moving in the background, and it will continue. Again, I just want to keep the folks, right? So that's the biggest challenge for us right now. And someone spoke to it earlier. I wasn't sure, Mayor, if it was you or someone spoke to or maybe Councillor Van Newkirk about recruiting, and it's an ongoing and it's a troublesome and time-consuming venture, but it's necessary. But that could be our biggest challenge. But back to the expertise that comes with new folks is as the demands in rec world or social side change, these folks are bringing their experience to that, and so we're ensuring we've got folks aligned well with what the challenges are and how we're trying to meet those needs. The service level conversation for us is a tricky one because, if it's up to me, I don't want to stop doing anything, if I'm being frank. I don't want to charge people more money. I don't want to stop doing anything that we do, truthfully, because I think everything has value, whether it's affecting 10 people or 1,000 people a day. Those that use it want to use it, but obviously we all know that we can't do everything for all people. But that's where our team is passionate about the work they do, so I can't speak highly about our area and what we try to deliver for the community, and we'll continue no matter what. I think I've said enough, Mayor. I'll take my questions if there are any.
Yes, there are some.
Thank you.
Just a quick question for me, and then Councillor Natalenbos, and then we'll go to the other councillors here. Do you have, thank you very much for the presentation, by the way. Just was wondering, do you know if any of your facilities, the rentals that you receive from those facilities right now currently pay for the staff, the facility maintenance staff? If there's any...
And that's a difficult question. I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question,
So,
Mayor.
for example, the ice rinks, the rental of the ice rinks, do they pay for, say, the Zamboni, everything that's needed to maintain that ice? Do we have any numbers on that?
No. If you're asking if it's revenue neutral or
Yeah.
no, it would not be. No. I mean, there's a subsidization that goes on. That is a very common theme in the rec world. I would say rudimentary math would tell me we're probably running anywhere from 50 to 60% cost recovery, but there's spikes. Some programs are cost recovery, others are not. And that's where our department is. It's if you're going to get cost recovery, I think Jay spoke to it earlier about we could charge the right amount to come in and do something, but then you'll have no one show up because it's too expensive. So when you speak to ICE particularly, we're very aware that we're on the higher end of the ICE rental rate when you look at some of our regional comparators. However, we're significantly less than a private rental. So there's an entity near us that is a private facility who is charging about 50% more than us per hour to rent the ice. So, and they still get use, but that's a decision that has been a historic or traditional service that municipalities provide, and it is very difficult to get a cost recovery on that stuff. I mean, a Zamboni would be a capital purchase, so it's a different piece than an operating cost, but. The rental is a lot of money that comes in. The challenge is, and we have this conversation all the time, is if you build another rink or you do this, we'll use it, and that's fine. But again, they're only using it likely prime time. So prime time we can say is pretty much 95-100% use. So yes, you're making your revenue, but then it's sitting potentially vacant most of the day. So it still costs you to heat it. It still costs you to run the plant to keep the frozen water. It still costs you to pay a staff member to be there. So those things are tough to break even on. And I think even the private industry has found that as well. When they build it, they have a business plan, clearly. They're smart folks. They know what they're doing in business. And they still struggle to break even, let alone turn a profit. So then they end up looking at different avenues, whether it's sponsorship, whether it's different activities that go on in there. And, so I'll leave it at that. I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but I don't want to get into it.
I was looking more for like the staffing of that particular facility, thinking of all facilities at this point, doesn't necessarily have to cover the electricity and all those things, but are there metrics to say, hey, this is covering a staff person, this is covering, we get sponsorship to cover this? So I was just curious if there was a strategy in place for anything like that.
Yeah, the way we budget is we have like the operating budget for the facility, then there's also the facility budget, which infrastructure manages, which would include, any bigger ticket repairs. It includes the utilities, whereas our side of it, like for Ken Nickel, for example, would pay for the staff. It would pay for the ice plant maintenance. It would pay for fuel for the truck and whatnot. So it covers that stuff. So we have a delineation there between the two sides of a building. The BSRC is a little bit more, quite a bit more complicated than the Ken Nickel, for example, because there's so many different pieces in there. We've got lease spaces that we rent for concession. We've got a partner in there that delivers a program for us with the climbing wall. We've got fitness contractors that we deliver programs for us. So we've got FTEs doing things. We've got casual staff doing things. We've also got some contractors doing things. It just depends. And every time we do anything, we always look at what would be the most cost-effective, most efficient way to deliver that program or service. And that's never going to change. We're going to keep doing that. We also look at, if we to change it to maybe save a few dollars, is it actually going to save a few dollars? Because sometimes we think that way and it doesn't, because it becomes more problematic. And if we can partner with someone or some entity or even outsource it, in our case, it may be way better for us, because when you outsource something, let's talk about the climbing wall as an example. That is a successful business that came here when we opened, took a flyer. They didn't operate here. They operated in Red Deer only. And Curtis decided he'll take a chance, start a business here, hire some folks, train them up, and operate that space, because we built an asset, but we had no real plan to operate that particular piece. And when we looked at the numbers for us, as an example, to bring on staff to do it, there's a training component, there's a liability component, and there's the staff management and salaries that come with that. And the management, for me, forget the dollar value. The management, so if someone calls in sick, right now, that's not our problem. That's Curtis's manager to staff that, right? Whereas if it's our team, then again, that's our problem. So we see the challenges with that. So that was why we jumped on that opportunity, and it's been a success. We do partner with them on a drop-in piece, because we're trying to grow that sport, that activity, provide a different level there. They have their private piece, then there's a shared sort of drop-in experience that we help cover, we charge back for it. And we're hoping that over time those numbers continue to elevate, so as we get more interest in that program. We expanded that space because beside it there was what they called it a pro shop. When the building was first built, it was a pro shop, and we tried, and we had an ongoing RFQ out there for a few years to try to get a vendor to come in and operate something. But pro shops don't make a lot of money, if anything, and especially in the space that was there. So long story short, an opportunity came talking with the climbing folks about adding a bouldering wall to that space. So we got that done. We added that asset. It's our asset, but they operate it for us. And again, it now appeals to a different demographic of user and opens up more doors and more interest in the program overall. So to me, it's another example of how we look at things innovatively in Beaumont. It's not just, we do that, we've always done it this way, we're going to keep going. No, we see an opportunity here, let's try it. If it doesn't work, well, we'll have to look at it again. But so far, so good, I guess, as far as that goes. So I've been very long-winded on this question. I appreciate,
okay.
But it touches so many things, Mayor, so
Thank
apologies
you.
for that.
Yes, thank you so much for your answer. I'm going to now send it over to Councillor Natalenbos.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Suter. I'll ask you the hard questions, not because I don't like you, but because you have the biggest budget. I'll start with the hardest question here. How do we get rid of the static on the turf field there? So I'm about to get zapped on Sunday.
So, sorry, did you say static?
Yeah. No, I'm just bugging you. That'll be a next question. But in seriousness, in terms of budget, you are one of the groups with the smallest increase in terms of requests for personnel. Obviously, you have the most personnel. Just curious, how come that's the case? Is it because there's an opportunity to have folks within your group maybe do alternate duties? Or is it because you were adequately staffed before? Just curious how come biggest budget has lowest increase, which I'm not complaining about.
Sort of a reverse problem almost, Councillor Antonovas. Yeah, I mean, we would never say no to more resources. I'm not going to say that we would. We did get a resource this in 25 that we just filled, and I'm very optimistic that that's going to bear fruit as we move forward. But when we looked at our operations now, we've just gotten up to staffing and on all levels. We've also had some opportunities present themselves with that. Now that we've got that skill set and those numbers, that we can probably do more than with what we're doing right now. But that also, when I speak to service levels, we've sort of grown and we've grown and we've grown, but we've never actually stopped and looked at what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Should we continue to do it? There's been sort of this organic growth in rec, especially in rec, more recently more on the arts and events side. To try to balance things out. And that's been a very strategic decision by council supporting those maneuvers. But it's, again, we haven't asked for more resources right now. And we're confident that we're going to continue to deliver what we're doing currently tomorrow. However, that's not a statement I'm going to want to reiterate too much, because as the community continues to grow, we're seeing 25,000 people a month come through the rec center that we know about. That doesn't count everyone else. So we do try to find that balance. I would love to have some facility attendants at the BSRC. Those would be folks that would be checking wristbands, interacting with our customers in the fitness center, potentially helping them navigate. We do get folks lost all the time, going to the wrong spot or whatever the case. We try to mitigate that through some contracted service with a security service, which has addressed a couple pieces. It's looked at disruptive behavior that we've experienced, as well as the ongoing theft that we've struggled with over the last couple of years. So we're managing, and that's the short answer. We've just onboarded new folks, and we'll reevaluate, I think, on an annual basis as to where our biggest pinch points are, all assuming that we're going to continue to deliver the services that we are now. And that could change, obviously, with whatever council may decide they want us to do.
Perfect, thank you. Next question relates to revenue and the sales and user charges. How much of that growth or increase is related to organic growth versus increase in fees?
I don't have that broken out. I can try and see if we can figure that out for you, Councillor. Yeah, that revenue estimate would be based on what we see this year, adding the 5%.
Perfect, so it wouldn't incorporate growth?
It would, I just don't know what the growth would be, because I go back to that earlier comment about if we price it too high or we change what we're doing, we could see a drop in some spaces. But yeah, we are growing, and I'll try and dig into that if I can.
Okay, perfect. Under which line item for revenue would advertising fall under?
Advertising would be built into the operating budget for each facility. So if you buy a rink board in the field house, that would be associated to a revenue piece in the field house. If you buy a naming right of the arena, that goes to the arena operating costs, and that's how it's broken out. So it just depends what you're doing, or if you're paying for a program, it would fill into that space. So it's just particular to where you're partnering or you're buying advertising.
Fair enough. And on this budget, where would that fall?
It would all fall under sale and user charges.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And then next question for you relates, it might be out of your scope, but I'm just curious. I've had a few folks mention that they've tried to inquire about advertising in bus shelters, as well as our buses. And they said it's not a possibility at this point in time. Would that fall under you, or would that fall under someone else for the advertising side?
Thank you for the question. That's one of those areas I don't know that we've fully flushed out. I obviously have nothing to do with the buses, transit operations, but advertising and sponsorship would fall under our department. So if that's something that the city was going to pursue, I would suggest that we would, our folks in that area would manage that arrangement with the partner.
Okay, so I guess that would be an offline conversation with you. I just feel there's missed revenue there. Would that be fair to assume?
I can't comment on that because I don't know what the real opportunity would be with the transit myself offhand.
Okay. I will save that question for later. Next question, probably the harder question, just relates to the childcare side of things. Last year, we were presented with a presentation that basically stated that we are receiving about 90% cost recovery on childcare services. About 2 weeks ago, I was told a completely different story. Are you able to tell us what we are either, well, if we're operating at a loss or if we're operating even, and what that number looks like?
I'll take that.
Sure, I'll pass over to the
Councillor
CAO.
CAO, go ahead.
First of all, I just want to clarify that you were not told a completely different story. The report that was presented is presented with consideration of council's policy. And in that policy, council exempted a number of costs, like the cost to operate the facility, to maintain it, the capital improvements, the support, the HR, payroll, and all of those items which have a cost by policy are not considered. So if you want to consider actual costs, you're in around Maureen, you have the $600,000 per year of extra costs that are paid to keep those operations running.
Perfect, thank you. So operating at a loss of roughly $600,000 to $700,000 based on only 90% recovery, would that be fair to say?
No.
Oh,
I can jump in a little bit if I maybe try to clarify. So yeah, there's the direct costs and the indirect costs. So if you just look strictly at the direct costs, you're running anywhere from 86 to 88%, just depending on the time that whether you're got a spot or not open. But the indirect costs, which would be the support from an HR perspective or facility space or finance support, those pieces, I don't know the number on that myself, and I think I'll turn it over to whomever is the best person to answer that. But the direct costs are definitely running 86% right now, I believe.
So Neil, did you want to?
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Natellenbos. Yes, in the report, we referenced, like CAO Schwartz said, the council policy that excludes specific things. It also excludes the school age site from any cost recovery calculations. So there had been a third-party review of the child care, and at that time, they assessed the indirect costs to be close to $500,000 of indirect costs, plus, as Mr. Suter mentioned, the 85 to 90% cost recovery, which would add about another $100,000, if I'm not mistaking that, and bringing it to about $600,000 cost to the municipality.
I can just, sorry, Councillor Natellenbos, one of my wizards just jumped in here and said they're looking about 93% currently with a direct cost. But again, these are depending on when you look at it, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and it's unfortunate that we only focused on direct costs because obviously indirect costs are much more significant, especially to this circumstance. So it'd be nice to know that. So I appreciate that that you're providing that information. Is there any way you'd be able to give a bit of an estimate as to what it would look like if, hypothetically, childcare services went private and we were to rent out those facilities? Do you know roughly what revenue we'd be looking at in terms of revenue coming in for rental?
The short answer, no, but what I would suggest, if that's what council would like, we could certainly look at, there was a business plan done years ago, but I would suggest we could look at the different options in the future and bring a report back just to, both in terms of whether there's options that are viable, what that looks like, as well as, it's a timely conversation potentially because the other business plan was done many years ago, so.
Thank you so much.
Perfect, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Natellenbos. Next, Councillor Van Newkirk, and then Councillor Hyde and Councillor Murray.
Great, thank you. Quick question about one of the smaller numbers on the page, actually, but it was one that caused, I think has caused user groups a little bit of headache around that stage inspection. Just wondering, the 2,600, maybe not budgeted for in the past, but budgeted for now, is that per use? So does that mean when we deploy it for downtown, that's a 2,600? When we deploy it for the symphony, that's a 2,600, or is that on the year?
No, that cost would be on the year. That's the annual certification.
Yeah.
That inspection/certification, yeah.
Yeah, because I think in the past, there was user groups that had bore that cost. I don't know if that's factual or not, but it seems to me I've heard that. So I think this is good news, of the fact that it's being budgeted for here, and it should be, looked after. That 2,600 should certify the stage and preclude it being needed in the future.
Yeah, it's a small amount, Councillor Van Newkirk, but what it illustrates is the team, when we're looking at stuff where we're, if you budget 5,000 in a line, but you're always over at 7 every year, why? So we need to, it's just that right sizing that Jay had mentioned earlier, and we do that all the time, and even if it's a small amount, so we're just trying to constantly improve in that way and get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So that's just another example. It's just the same as where you looked at the youth center there and there was a $5,000 reduction. Well, that doesn't seem like a lot, but again, it's just that discipline, that's that ongoing philosophy of looking at what we're doing every year and cleaning things up where we can.
Yeah, and my point is, I think this represents good news for our user group as well, right? So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, thanks for your report, Paul. I could spend all day on community services, to tell you the truth. There's a lot to unpack there, and I don't envy you at all. A lot of things have changed in the last 4 years with personnel between FCSS, and I know that you've taken on different roles as well and different hats, and you have to take it on and off. And I'm just wondering, you said that FCSS you feel is in a good place now, that it's kind of fully staffed and ready to go, and that's great to hear from our side of the things. We certainly learned, Councillor Penrod and myself both attended FCSS seminar at the Munis as well, and it's great to see that that's staffed up now, because I think there's going to be some changes provincially around that. I have some other quick questions for you, and because like I said, I could spend all day on this. A couple things was, yes, the personnel is the lowest ask, but it's still $265,000. Are we looking at full-time personnel, part-time personnel in that case, or are we looking at, again, retention? What does that number represent?
Yeah, there's no ask of additional resources. That's just the built-in adjustment for salaries and whatnot, yeah.
Okay. Materials have gone up 33%. Is that just cost of goods?
That would probably be, that one's speaking to some of those things I spoke to, like the ice compressor and sauna repair stuff. There's that, we dropped in one space, but we added in some others, so that's where it kind of landed.
That's where that kind of landed. Is that where the $102,000 for the rec and sports facility expense comes in play? Because I see that the rec and sports facilities budget for 2026 is $125,700, and then it goes down to $26,825 in 27. So I'm just looking at different two expenses there. That's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, that's talking about the, just bear with me as I change screens here. Yeah, it's talking about some of those are one-time projects, so they're built in there. It's also, that factors in both revenue and reductions in revenue. So we reduced some of the rental stuff as well as we added some more. So it's kind of a balancing out number.
Yeah, I see that you've dropped rec facilities management down $39K, going back up to $124K next year. Is that where you're trying to find that balance?
Yes, for short answer, yes. And it will change every year potentially. These are just projections, right? So as things crop up throughout the year for us, the team will plan for, we have to do this next year now. We didn't know we had to do that kind of thing. So those are sort of, some of those will be fluid every year, and they always have been, I think. But we're doing a better job of identifying things in advance as opposed to just running over budget in a line, for example.
Yeah, just one last question then. In regards to personnel, how much of this is frontline workers, so boots on the ground type of thing, of that $8 million number? And how much would be administration, percentage-wise?
Well, I don't know how you define boots on the ground exactly as I would, Councillor Hyde. I would say just about everybody's boots on the ground. We really don't have an administrative piece. We've got a couple of administrative roles which support the frontline team, but that's it. It's like 99% frontline customer service.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a transparency piece that I ask because people do ask that, sort of an idea, how much is that on the ground, sort of an idea. So that's the reason I asked for that. Thank you very much for your great answers, and I'm sure we'll talk more.
Thank you. Councillor Murray, and then Councillor Penrod.
Thank you. Just going back to two things. One, we were talking about the stage inspection, and then I just noticed that it flips in dollar amount in 2 years. So there's more cost every second year to do maybe a thorough inspection, or?
Yeah, there's two pieces to it. So the inspection, Councillor Murray, and the certification, and one's more costly than the other. It has to be done biannually, so every other year.
Okay.
Yeah.
My next question is going back to the childcare services, and I get sort of what's happening here in terms of some of the deficits, but is there one facility that's costing more than the other in terms of like the out-of-school care versus the early childhood?
Thank you for the question. Just bear with me a sec here. Well, the early childhood is a bigger program, but I'm not sure that we've broken it out that way here. If you give me a few minutes, I'll have to dig into that.
Sure. Then one of the other things was we were talking about that there's the policy waives capital improvements, HR finance support. Were there other departments that were involved in that?
Ms. O'Neill, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Murray, the policy's on our website, but I'll just go through it here quickly. So
Thank you.
Accounting costs, administrative costs, management, tech, HR, communications, any support from the director or managers. There's no rental fee associated with the childcare, no utilities, none of that stuff's in there. Any financial amortization, so any of the capital expenses over time are not included. And the school age site is completely excluded from that policy.
Excluded. Okay. So are we charging a comparable amount to other daycares in the region?
That's Mr. Suter.
Yeah, we're only allowed to charge the specific rate based on the grant funding agreement, so it's fixed. Yeah, and that's why we're subject to that changes. Anytime there's a change to that agreement, we have to wait and see what that looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penrod.
Thanks. Just wanted to clarify a couple things that I thought I heard. One, first, just to clarify, Mr. Suter, where the Leduc County contributions flow in as revenue.
Thank you for the question. They would flow into under the rec facility management, and then they have been traditionally sort of broken up depending on how it's structured in the agreement to each particular, whether it's a program or a building.
Okay, so on the rolled up document on page 34 of the main budget document, would that fall into government transfers?
I have to confirm, I'm just looking at Jay here, Councillor Penrod. I thought it was, but that number doesn't necessarily correlate directly, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, and just while we're waiting for an answer on that front, sounded like there'd been some significant year-over-year increases negotiated for the current 3-year term, so excited to hear that. And it also sounded like I heard that Leduc County residents are using our facilities at about 11.5% of total usage. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
So that's the number that was discussed in the negotiations that brought the.
yeah, and that number has changed over time, and as they continue to grow, they basically break up the county into different what we call catchment areas. So because they've got different communities within the county, or so they know their residents may be participating or using certain facilities. So when they look at Beaumont and what we have and the catchment area around there, which has grown significantly because of the urban areas which are coming directly west of us, and so they recognize that, so that number has come up, and it will likely continue to come up as those communities continue to build out. And it is something that ad hoc committee that we have with them, with the 2 councillors from Beaumont and the 2 councillors from Leduc County, that's the conversation, both in terms of what does that look like, is it fair, is it realistic, as well as what should be in or out. There's been some interesting conversations over the last number of years about what is included in that agreement, what should be, and sometimes, this is an opportunity for change here because we've got new folks going to come to that table, so we'll see where it goes in the future. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
If I may add, so not all of that revenue goes to community services. Some goes to infrastructure for the parks work. So
for buildings and
for the revenue. So you won't see that $87,000 straight into community services split up between a couple departments. So.
Yeah, because parks would fall into the agreement. So if Mr. Lewicki's team buys a mower, they want to know about it. That's a capital thing, and they would contribute to that. Likewise, the parks team, when they're doing their mowing and their sports field maintenance, whatever that net operating cost is to deliver that service, they contribute that 11.43% of that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so it just sounds like those numbers that we've negotiated with Leduc County, those numbers are going up, and that represents progress, but it sounds like if we're going from that 11.5%, it's hard for me, given what you just said, to land on exactly the amount of the overall budget that 12% would represent, but it does sound like we've still got room to grow there and more negotiations to be had.
Yeah, there's room to grow, like I said earlier, like as their residents in the catchment area grow, they have to adjust. Or the definition of the catchment area could be, and those things are always up for discussion, and that's why that committee sits annually and talks. Not necessarily to change the current agreement, we do have a 3-year agreement, but then you plan for the next 3 years. And this has jumped significantly from the last one, which jumped from the one before, and I don't think they were very happy about it, but the reality is they stepped up. Then they realized that we're delivering a service and access to facilities they don't have for those residents. So if they don't partner this way, then there could be more problems for them because they're not going to go build a rec center right over here. So it's a win-win for both sides. It's just where it lands. Is it a fair and equitable piece? That's an ongoing conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and these conversations kind of ebb and flow. We just went through a period where Edmonton kind of tapped out of a bunch of the regional conversations, and now we're getting indications that maybe they might be favorable to tapping back into some of them. So we're all trying to rationalize these costs, and sometimes it makes more sense to work together across the region to do it, and that's why it's just important that Beaumont, both from administration and council, is represented at these various tables having these conversations.
Yeah, we have worked with the county in the rec side quite well in the last number of years. We did a feasibility study with them. We got a grant for it, so it didn't cost anybody anything a few years back to look at a joint recreation site over in the county lands. And then likewise, we're having this conversation now with the lands at the airport that they've offered to the county for potentially some high-level sports activities. So that's still being fleshed out, but they've budgeted some money, and we've had a few meetings already on where that might go. It's also engaging Beaumont Ball, so it's nice to see it's not just admin talking to admin or consultants talking to admin. It's actually community members that are stepping up and having these conversations, and we'll see where that goes.
Thank you. One final question, Mayor?
Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Okay, so just to pivot towards the childcare conversation, and I'll keep this at a really high level, and maybe just direct it to CEO Schwartz, since you answered the question most directly. Childcare is, how much of a unicorn is childcare in Beaumont? So we pointed out some, was a surprise to me, the answer we got the other night, because it was very different than what I had previously understood. I think the point you raised was fair, like that's the way that council had designed that policy. But so is it the only one as a cost center that has a bunch of costs externalized, or are there others?
The policy is specifically to the ELCC program.
So, but you have a fairly global knowledge of our organization, I would hope.
They don't tell me much.
Yeah. Are there other, I don't want to start fishing around and saying, what about this, what about that? But would it be fair to say that, well, yeah, that's my question is it a unicorn? Is it a one-off? Is it the only one with those major costs externalized, or are there others?
Okay, I'll go back to my first, I think I know where you're going with this, but I'm still going to answer the question black and white. That policy applies only to early learning childhood. All the other programs, to my knowledge, that we have in place are 100% cost tracked, revenue versus expense. If you're asking me whether there's other areas in our organization or lines of business that we might have an opportunity to look at, the answer is yes. I think a good time to have those conversations would be when we're deliberating next week. And then what admin would request is that we go in camera to have those conversations, because they may turn into nothing.
Thank you, and that was a point. Why I've tried to stay high level here is trying to take seriously some of the feedback that we've gotten. I don't want anyone to feel like we're contemplating making big sweeping decisions without all the data in place, and to hear Mr. Bohachik's point or from earlier, like what we want to avoid is kind of the making the sausage. People can live with the decision, but they don't need to know how the sausage was made at the end of the day. So I'll leave it there. I just think I wanted to ask that question here now, because these questions and these conversations are going to generate a lot of conversation in the community leading into open houses, and then between now and the big budget workshop next week. So I just don't want people to start leaping to conclusions. Our finance minister and our premier like to say, be careful what you wish for, because if you create a rule that everything has to be revenue neutral, that could affect a lot of cost centers in the organization. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. But I will piggyback onto that to ask another question from a business perspective. In terms of going back to the stage inspection certification, again, a small number, but now that you know it's there, in terms of the costs associated with that, is that something that is going to be put into consideration in terms of ongoing future rentals to be able to compensate for those?
Thanks for the question, Mayor. We've looked at that a couple different ways. We currently have a company that we contract to manage that stage for us, because it's very time consuming. They're the experts that come, they bring it, they set it up and make sure it's right. I think infrastructure just stores it for the most part. That stage was purchased, I don't know how many years ago, before I got here. I'm not even sure offhand what the end of life would be on something like that, but it doesn't get as much use as we'd like. But the agreement that we're in currently is that company, if the stage is available, can rent it out to other entities, other groups, other municipalities, whomever, and we would share revenue on whatever the rental is. We thought that was a win-win when we went into that agreement with them. It just hasn't, unfortunately, made us much money yet. So it's something we would look at. I think we're not sure we would repeat history and buy another stage. I think we might just look at renting a stage from them instead of owning our own in the future. But it was a decision made many years ago. So.
Yeah, I think that's a valid a valid assessment to make, you know, if it's not making money, if it's not covering the cost of it, then maybe it's better to have a referral partner to be able to pad that in.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, you plan very well and you hope for things and they just don't always materialize as you hope. But yeah, we've definitely talked about that a few times over the last couple of years about whenever that we determine the end of life for that particular capital asset, that we could potentially just not replace it.
Yeah.
Go a different route.
And again, it's a small item, but a lot of small items add up to big expenses, right? So I think it's good to evaluate some of those things from a business perspective.
And sometimes, Mayor, it's not even the money; it's the time management of all these things.
Totally.
And as there's so many things that we do in a day, and there's only so much we can expect everyone to do in a day. So, you know, the more you keep piling on to the operational folks, then it's just more.
I agree, 100%. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions before we have a recess? Ms. O'Neill, yes.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. I realize I misspoke, so I just want to correct myself for council with regards to the deficit funding policy for childcare. The school age side is included as part of the direct costs.
Sorry, what's included?
The school age site.
Okay.
Only the facility is excluded. There are 53 children in the school age site and 85 children at the ELCC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that correction. All right, I think we're done for now. We're going to take a recess and come back here tomorrow at 9 a.m., correct? Thank you, everyone, for your patience and presence. See you tomorrow.